What's up, guys? It is Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to roll into that slow, right? Because it's like a fast forward. Everyone thinks
it's a little aggressive. Yeah,
I mean, just let's roll with it. What's up, guys? It is Modern.
Okay.
Too slow? It's Modern Craftsman Monday.
Monday.
And we got Ben Bogie on the podcast this week.
The bearded wonder.
Huh?
The bearded wonder.
The bearded. And oh my goodness, does John get pretty heated?
On.
Yeah.
I figured that would be
F-bombs.
I had. Oh yeah, you dropped the F-bomb quite a few. So this is
Made
an
fun
explicit.
of Kansas. What was up with that, man? What, Kansas?
Do we know so it's funny. I do this
Dude,
almost every
hating on
podcast. I think I made
Kansas.
fun of Maine and Canada the other day. Like, do they even have something? And people DM me and was like, "Yeah, we build
do.
up here." Yeah.
You a-hole. Well, either way, we get into building science and him leaving or closing his company to go to work for someone, which I feel like that's a pretty hot topic, and it's a difficult one to navigate. And it sounds like he really had things in place to make that transition really smooth. And of course, we talk about panelization a little bit.
John, how do you feel about panelization?
Yeah, like we're not even gonna tell you when. Just wait for it. The volume goes way up.
I haven't gotten fired up in a while. Straight up.
And today
Well,
you did.
You did. Congrats.
This podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. One and done. That is what Duration beveled siding is all about. Whether it's a special profile to match an existing condition like beveled back siding with a thumbnail edge, something a little out of the ordinary like a 12-inch wood grain beveled, or one of our 6 standard smooth beveled siding profiles, you can be assured of a great-looking, trouble-free installation and a warranty that's virtually impossible to void with Duration. To learn more about Duration Poly Ash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com.
Can we give Upstate a plug?
Upstate Merch? Who are they? Do they do T-shirts?
They do everyone's gear. Everyone. Hats.
Everyone. He opened a
shirts.
wole division for contractors,
He did.
which is
And they got
amazing.
deals.
Yeah, he does like, guys, if you need a printed shirt for your, let me retract that. You need
Yeah.
T-shirts. You gotta look the part. You gotta have your brand. You guys gotta look professional. But Upstate hooks it up. They got great deals. It's inexpensive entry, and I think 100 for like 100 T-shirts or something like that for a couple $100. Or,
It's short money. I mean,
I actually need some.
I just ordered a whole boatload. I got sweatshirts.
A whole
I did the-
boat-
An
Boatload.
entire
What's
boat.
this boatload? How old am I?
I don't
Oh
know.
my god.
hey, John, your T-shirts here.
Yeah, but it's cool. Like, you don't have to do like, I got the sweatshirts and like the ones Nick has with the hockey laces. I went back to those, and I was, because I've been doing the Carhartt stuff forever. I literally buy Carhartt gear, box it up and mail it to him, and he gets the embroidery. This was done by him. That's the wrong side.
Yep.
I'm looking at the screen,
Other side, John.
and he makes it easy. I actually have him doing my hats too, the embroidered ones.
Sick. Yeah.
So I mean, he does
Upstate
it all,
merch.
and they'll work with you for logo if you need some help with it, and if it's a little wacky, they'll fix it up.
Yeah.
They'll
Oh, I
be
got
awesome.
another one for you guys. Ken, the cost.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Oh, where is mine?
our cabinet maker here, he's been working on this little secret side project, and he's not telling anyone about it. And he posted a story a couple weeks ago. I screenshot that thing,
How does that
zoomed
work?
in.
Do you get a kickback?
I get
from that?
no deal.
Is he
That's
leaving
fine. No,
MS Builders?
I want nothing. I hope not.
What if this goes
Imagine
big?
like
Was that
I'm like,
created under
big.
your roof?
Dude,
Like,
if this
should you
goes
get a
big,
piece?
he's
No,
leaving.
no.
Yeah, he's definitely
so
leaving.
He's gone.
He's got the hot. I'm gonna make sure I get the website right. I think it's hivenotebook.com, right? Yeah, hivenotebook.com. So if you guys are familiar with like the Moleskine notebooks or these field notebooks, these things are killer. They're vegan leather. The paper is made out of stone. You can't rip it, and it's waterproof. Like the paper is waterproof, which is it's fantastic. It's
Right now
lined.
he's got the hard cover.
Yeah, hardcover. He's got soft covers coming for John.
Yeah,
He's got minis coming. He's got grid paper coming. He's got blank pages coming. I was going to hold it up because everyone's not watching my camera. But there's also like unit conversions built into that front. But check out hivenotebook.com. He's got a special going on. and I think it's free shipping over $50.
It's
But-
Hive_notebook.
I feel like it would have been
on
easier
IG.
just to give him a raise.
It-
You know?
No, this is fun.
Hey, this has a bigger impact on the industry.
yeah.
I got one. I haven't opened it yet. I'm
But it's-
working on it.
And they're limited supplies for
I
this
get
first
one
round.
page I can
So
Create that
Got it.
demand.
yeah, so make sure you guys check that out.
Are you
It's got a pen
signing
holder.
any?
No,
Gold pen.
but I could.
That'd be
14,
sick.
24.
Yeah, the packaging when they show up at your
It's just bees.
money, bees. Oh,
Yeah. You just open it. It's a box of bees with a notebook inside.
now you just ruined the surprise.
If you're allergic, check the box off.
Yeah.
Have somebody else open it.
Kid's gonna love us.
All right, guys, let's get into it.
That was the longest intro of all time. I love it.
So what's up, Ben?
Living the dream. Just, framing a floor system today, so my body's beat to hell, but, life's good.
Yeah. Where
I feel
where
like
are you
you should
located?
introduce your beard.
Seriously.
It's my trademark at this
I
point.
could never do anything. I could never grow anything like that.
It's
I don't know
just
if I
sheer
would.
laziness.
And manliness.
Yeah.
If I grew that much beard, I wouldn't have another hair on my body. They'd be like, "This is all you're getting."
Oh, the rest of
this
it's
beard.
waxed except for this.
Oh, are you a swimmer?
Yeah, I'm fast, man.
Yeah,
No,
that
no,
makes
just kidding.
sense.
It's like just takes
This
a
is
total
amazing.
a left turn. It's like,
This is
wait,
amazing.
let's talk about Ben's swimming career. Where are you located? You're up north,
So-
right?
Yeah, so I'm in Portland, Maine currently. I've been here for 3 years, but the wife and I made a choice a couple of months ago. I'm originally from Western Connecticut, and I'm moving back to Western Connecticut in the first week of December.
How come?
Be close to family again is really what it boils down to. We have a 4-year-old, and when we moved up here, he was a year old, and I think we kind of underestimated how much we were going to want to be near family.
I feel like I'm going the opposite route. I'm like, I
That's
think
how I got here.
I think I underestimated how much I want to be around family, and now I'm like, I could use a little bit more room.
So what is that? Why you ended up in Portland? Is because, I mean, you joke about getting away from family, but what really brought you up there? I mean,
No,
it's an awesome city, but
Yeah, no, it's a totally awesome city. So I went to school at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship back in 2006. So I lived up here, not in Portland, but I lived in Maine for a year while I was in school. And my wife and I were dating at the time. We fell in love with it up here. Around the time that my son was born, I was kind of burning out on running my own business. And, I'm second generation. So my dad was a contractor my entire life. And I grew up with him coming back at 8:30 as we're getting into bed and like having to work on weekends and stuff. And I didn't really want that for him or for myself. So I decided to kind of hang up my business, which took a while to get over that hurdle of admitting that, and go to work for somebody and, kind of pass some of the stress and liability off on somebody else and do what I'm really good at, which is running projects.
you went to school for furniture.
Yeah, so I've been kind of all over the industry. Started out when I dropped out of high school at 16, cleaning job sites for my dad when he was doing developments. Worked as an assistant for a remodeler for a while, really got into trim work. Went and worked in some millwork shops, doing high-end finishes for places in Manhattan, and kind of, had the starry-eyed dream that I was going to become a studio furniture maker. So I went to school for furniture making, traditional furniture making, for 9 months up here at Center for Furniture Craftsmanship, like I said. And then quickly realized that the only way to really have a career as a furniture maker is if you already have money. So I was doing a lot of kitchens and custom millwork and furniture refinishing and antique repairs, and then just slowly started drifting back into doing more trim work, millwork for clients. And then
Out of necessity.
some of it, yeah, some of it came out. I started really kind of going back into carpentry around 2008, 2009, something like that. Everything had kind of slowed down, so there was work available to me doing that stuff around then. And then, ran my own business from the time I left school until 2017. So a 10-year run. Started getting more and more into high performance building science.
While you had your own company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess there's a little bit of backstory on that. So like I said, I'm second generation at this, but I'm not just second generation carpenter. I'm second generation high performance builder. My dad was doing super insulated and passive solar buildings back in the late 70s and early 80s.
That's badass.
Really like cutting edge at the time. They were being studied by and monitored by the utility programs in Connecticut for, viability to see if it really worked. And it was all out of the oil embargo of the late 70s. And then when energy prices came back down, the market dried up for that stuff. So I kind of always had building science fundamentals beaten into me since I was a kid. It was just, the way you do it. You pay attention to air sealing and thermal bridging and stuff like that.
So why not work for your dad at that point?
Well, so we did work together a fair bit, but he had gone into doing more project management for a period of time, was managing, doing, 50, 80 house subdivisions and condo complexes and stuff like that. So there wasn't a tremendous amount of work for me in those positions, not the work I wanted to be doing at that time. So I was that's when I was doing millwork stuff and case goods. So, but he and I have spent a lot of time working side by side on projects.
So you're still working for someone now?
Yeah, so I'm working for a builder up here in Portland, Dan Kolbert. Has a long track record of, doing high performance work up here. When I decided that I was going to go work for somebody, I wanted to work for somebody who was doing work that I was interested in. So,
do you have something lined up for when you move back home?
I do, yeah.
How do you like that Castle pocket hole machine?
Oh, that thing's sweet. Absolutely sweet.
I've been looking at it the whole time.
Buy it. Dude, do it.
I'll have
pull the
Nick
trigger.
buy it.
Yeah, pull the trigger. And then just borrow it permanently.
Just drop it off on your way from Portland back down to Connecticut.
Talk to the boss about that one.
If you had your own business and were rooted in that in Portland, do you think that you'd be moving back home?
That's a tough one because I never really considered coming up here and running my own business.
Yeah.
So around the time that I decided to hang up my business, I kind of had a realization that my interests and my strengths are in delivering projects. I'm not a great business person. My company did well, it was profitable for the most part. Like any early business, you go through your ups and downs. I did well, I made a decent living. But it wasn't what I was interested in. So
what was the the last straw, so to speak, or was it a gradual decision where you were like, hey, maybe I could, relocate and work for somebody?
Yeah, it was gradual. For a long time, like I kicked the thought around because I was, like I said, I was burning out on the long hours and the stress and the communications and the paperwork and all of that stuff on top of having to deliver in the field. And I kind of avoided the choice of hanging it up because I felt like I was failing. Like it was like I was giving up or like, I was failing, I couldn't make it a business or something like that. And then I realized like, wait a second, I'm making it a business, I'm pulling out while I'm doing well, and this is the right choice. So it wasn't like a last straw thing. There was no job or anything that pushed me over the edge or anything like that. It was just more the realization of having a child, my first child, and kind of wanting to have, a 40-hour week as much as I could and have quality time with him.
Do you have any regrets as far as making that leap and kind of taking that path?
No, my finances changed. I took a pay cut going to work for somebody. And there's a certain amount of, income. This isn't the right thing to say, a certain amount of income or financial ability that you get with some write-offs of stuff like that of owning a business, which that dried up and disappeared. So it took me a little while to readjust.
I feel like your lifestyle has to change some.
It does. Yeah, it does. So there was a little learning curve there. But yeah, I don't regret the move at all. And like I said, as I head back to Connecticut now, I'm continuing to work for somebody. So
I feel like I want to move to Portland and work for someone.
Where are you now?
In New Jersey.
Stay in New
My
Jersey.
wife and I just have this like pipe dream all the time of relocating. It's just tough with business, and like the one hang up was family, and then it's like, well, we could get away from that, but obviously like being rooted in business here, it would be tough to start up. I think the smart decision would be to go work for somebody, but it's always felt like a pipe dream.
Yeah, so Portland in particular is tough because, you know, when I was moving up here, a buddy of mine told me, he's like, you can't swing a hammer in a bar without hitting another carpenter.
Yeah.
Which to some degree is true. It's a tougher market up here. You know, I know Nick, Johnny, you guys are in Massachusetts, Boston area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're in New Jersey. The market's different up here. It's still a good market, but it's tighter.
Yeah.
So that's something I didn't fully anticipate when I moved up here.
What do you mean by tighter? Like just more blue collar?
Yeah, it's more blue collar. Portland and like the surrounding areas gentrifying rapidly.
A lot of second homes?
Not so much that. It's a lot of people coming out of Boston that are, you know, can either, you know, have relocated their businesses to up here, or can now, with all the COVID stuff going on, can work remotely. So we're seeing a big influx because of that. There's more tech moving into the area. It's tough because the wages are still pretty depressed up here, because Portland is really, and the coast is really an anomaly compared to the rest of the state. You had a half an hour inland and, you know, the income levels drop rapidly.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people willing to drive an hour from out in the sticks to come work in here. So it's tough to get prices up. It's tough to see what I consider competitive wages and benefits. Mm-hmm. So it's an awesome city. But
yeah, how long is I feel like Portland has been gentrifying? Is that a verb? For a while now, right? This isn't like
this isn't anything. This isn't anything new. I think it's just somebody put their foot on the pedal in the past couple of years.
You know, in respect to going back to closing up shop, and Tyler said, like, was there that straw that kind of broke the camel's back? But I'd like to unravel that a little bit more in the sense of what that process was like, you know. And I think because people, I feel like there's a lot of scare in doing that, and you talk about the financial side of it, and Tyler, you mentioned how like your lifestyle has to change, and I feel like that oftentimes is what stops people from doing it, where it's like, I'd love to close up my shop, but how do I like stop taking on work, and how do I roll out of this job, and how do I go from getting this fluctuating paycheck, you know, to getting a set salary? How to, like, you know, just basically, I don't know, as much as you're comfortable in like kind of talking about that process, and when that decision was made, it's like, hey, I'm starting this job, but this is going to be my last job.
So first thing is you have to have your finances in order. I was lucky that I had a couple of good years running before I had really made the decision. So I had, you know, personal savings and liquidity to be able to kind of float me through the transition period, because, you know, it's not just pack up 1 week and go the next. You know, you're closing down a business. You know, there's all sorts of stuff that you have to deal with: tools, materials, storage, that type of stuff. So it takes some time. So that's step one. I kind of had an easy closing project, so to speak. Do you guys know Pro Tradecraft and Professional Remodeler magazine? So in 2007, I did their model remodel, which is basically like a sponsored remodel project where they get everybody to come in and donate products and stuff like that. And I was able to do my mom's house. She was in need of, you know, improved living situation, had lost her husband recently. So I used that kind of as my finish line. When I finished her house was when I was able to cut and break, and I had hard deadlines for the magazine that I had to meet. So I kind of had a line in the sand. And once I hit that, it was, you know, that's when the gears went into motion and things packed up and made the move.
And when you good,
I feel like once you are in business, right, and you've set up this lifestyle and you've taken on a house and a mortgage and a family, I think the most difficult thing is that it's hard to take a pay cut for one, but then not have the write-offs, and then it's like, do you sell your house at that point? You know, like you're liquidating the business, you're getting rid of the business, but also you've created your entire life, and we're all at the point where it's like these decisions have been made early on while we're, you know, starting a family and building a business and buying a home and investing in your business, that it's like, it's not just liquidating the business, it's changing everything about your lifestyle. Like, if I went to work for somebody else, we'd have to move. We wouldn't need the property we have now. We wouldn't need the mortgage payment we have now. So it's so much more than just, it's not just like switching jobs.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. So it's not an easy task by any means. Like I said,
like we kind of corner ourselves.
Yeah, we do. And I think that's why I wrestled with that thought for so long, of actually being able to close up shop and admit that to myself, because there's a lot of moving pieces of owning your own business. And like you said, the lifestyle, and it certainly is. When I went to work for somebody else, it was a total like lifestyle culture shift for me. Like, you know, showing up at a set time and being done at a set time.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm getting emails on the weekends, I'm not responding to them.
Was that immediate though?
Yeah, you were able to shut that off?
No, I'm never able to shut that off. I have learned, though, it's taken me some time. I think this is one of my strengths as an employee, is I'm coming from having been a business owner, so I understand it. But now, being an employee, I can also draw that line personally and say, hey, it's after hours. I'm not responding to this right now. This is it. My time is done. You know, you don't have me in a position where you can call on me on all hours. I have set schedule. So that took me a little while to adjust to. I'm still bad about it. You know, my wife still yells at me like, you know, shut it off, stop responding to the texts, or don't worry about the emails right now. So, you know.
Yeah, but are you ever, we always talk about receiving stuff, but I always feel like I'm always the guy sending stuff. Like there's that one day of the week or the month that I'm just like, I'm not sending anything, or I'm not bothering. I don't want to be bothered. But then there's other days where I'm just like, I'm firing shit off till midnight and apologizing the whole way through. And it just, I just don't know how to do that, because I did all this. I did the exact same hard break with my business when I had my first kid.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
It took time. Yeah, it took time for me to shut that off. And, you know, now 3 years in, I've gotten pretty good at it, you know, and it's weird for me because that was like such an ingrained part of being a business owner before. It's like, you're just on it, you know, you're always on it. So I have a hard time shutting my mind off, but I'm not sending stuff out on the weekend. So like, I'll still be ticking through details and stuff in my head, but I just kind of either jot myself down a quick little note, or just like put something away in the back of my memory saying, hey, you know, Monday morning, we got to remember these are the first couple of things. You know, I take notes like it's my job, because it is, you know, in my off hours when that stuff comes in. I just don't do it in my off time unless it's an emergency.
Yeah, I gave it like 15
made,
years.
I take notes like it's my job, because it is.
I gave it like 10 years and I couldn't shut it off, so I went back to my own business.
I feel like that's just personality type though, right? You know, you started your own business, you have a certain drive. If you had a successful business and you closed the doors while you were still profitable, a lot of us don't have the personality type. If you can refrain from sending emails, refrain from corresponding, that doesn't mean that your brain's not ticking like, hey, I still need to do this, or I need to do that, or I can't forget about this detail, even if you're not engaging with customers.
Well, I wonder, Ben, is it more that, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like when I worked for somebody, someone else controlled what I had to take on. Meaning, hey, we're going to give you these 2 projects. But when you own your own business, you're like, I'm going to take on these 2. Well, I can't say no to that. I'll price this out, and then I got to close up that issue that they just called on. So at any given time, you might have 2 projects running, but you're actually juggling 6.
Yeah.
But when you've
got the ones that are in warranty or whatever, and then you've got the ones coming down the pipeline. You got the leads coming in. Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a little bit more structured, I feel like, depending on who the employer is, that like, hey, these are year 2 or this is year 1. So that is kind of a break in a way, meaning it's a control that you don't have when you're your own business owner. Well, you should. No, that break gets let off.
Yeah. It's nice. I guess it fits my personality. Like I said before, part of me realized that my strengths and my interests are in the actual execution and delivering of projects and not the back end part of it, though that's changing. I have more business interest as the years go on. Sorry, lost my train of thought there.
What is your role with Kolbert now?
So my business card says production manager. I straddle a line between lead carpenter and the traditional sense.
Fucking labels.
Yeah. I'm somewhere between a lead carpenter and a production manager. I have my belt on, depending on what we're working on, a solid chunk of the week.
So a working super?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But when we get into those phases in the business where we've got a lot of small jobs going, we don't have like large jobs going, then I fall into more of a production manager role where I don't have the belt on. I'm just handling all the legwork, the subs, the materials ordering, that type of stuff. So
What part of that do you like?
I prefer to have my belt off now.
Belt off.
Belt off. And I enjoy the work. I enjoy the physical work, but I've been at this 21 years now and my body's feeling it. So
Is it,
and I feel like in all honesty, I'm kind of shortchanging myself because my skills I have more profitable skills with my belt off than with my belt on. You know,
Okay.
I can execute very well in the field, but that's not where my strengths to another business are.
so I guess that's going back to my question, like you say that you would prefer to have your belt off, but you followed up with the fact that it's for two reasons. One, that your body is starting to be impacted and that you have more profitable skills with the belt off. Now, a challenge, if your body wasn't feeling the pain, like say you feel absolutely great, and let's just start with there. Like, would you?
I'd still be hanging it up.
You would,
Still be
yeah.
hanging it up.
So you truly do enjoy it. It's not a product of being sore or realizing that you're more profitable in another area. It's that you genuinely enjoy it more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as much as I love the technical execution of the work and, you know, pulling off really clean work in the field, my interests now are higher level.
orchestrating it.
Exactly. It's, you know, I do really well, you know, something I took for granted, but I realized working for somebody else is that I project manage really well. And that's where my interests lie now. My interests lie in the more scientific end, doing energy modeling, doing carbon analysis on projects, doing, you know, more high level stuff like that.
That's way different than tool belt on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Went from wearing a tool belt to carbon modeling.
He said that. I'm like, I don't even know where I would start with that. Like Kyle walked us through it, and it made sense when he walked us through it. But I was like, but I don't know how I'd.
It's so here's the from somebody that is following this stuff pretty closely. It's all still very much in its infancy. Like being able to realistically do carbon loads on residential projects is really, the tools are just coming out to be able to do it. So the company that I'm going to has an interest in that. I'll be getting certified passive house consultant training. You know, all they do is high end, high performance, and it's all they've done for 25 years. So
Yeah, I want to go down that road, but I also want to go back a little bit. But
Yeah.
so carbon, this is where I get hung up. Is that what the house to live is it what it offsets with carbon? Is that what you're trying to focus on?
So you have two things in a building. You have operational carbon and you have embodied carbon. So the embodied carbon is everything that goes into constructing the building. And then the operational is the carbon emitted by operating the building. So
now is that going to be like, you know, cradle to, you know, from when it starts?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, depending on, so that's like I was saying, when you get into the actual modeling of it, a lot of that stuff is still in its infancy because we're just really starting to quantify a lot of this stuff and be able to say what cradle to grave is.
Yeah. 'Cause I feel like that's going to be such a huge thing that, you know, you might be able to create a product that an organism that's here that can kind of make its own stuff happen. But, you know, controlling what comes to you, just the vehicles and all that and how it goes. I mean, we've done lead before, which I thought has been a joke.
It is.
But it's, I think when you really get into it and just, we talked about this before, especially my room, just plastic itself. I know it's not carbon, but just how this whole thing gets made. It's just like,
and then it's the question is what do you do with that plastic when you take it off of the wall?
But like just all the stuff that gets delivered, like once you really start,
it's crazy. The amount of
disgusting.
waste. Yeah, it really is.
It's disgusting. And it's like, I sit there and there's days where I drive around and I look at it and I'm like, looking at each job and I'm like, all right, I'm multiplying this by 6 or 7 for jobs. And then I'm like, every day, it's not like it's like in my room. Yes. It's every day. It's now something else gets new introduced. And then it's like, wait a minute, how would I curb this? And you look at a dumpster and the dumpster's like cardboard in there. And I'm like, man, if I could get stuff to run smoother, I could start dialing this in because this is just ridiculous. This is like
the things that I like have interest in now is like being able to execute like on-site recycling. You know, it's like such a stupid concept, but like nobody has the time to do it. I want to be a project manager that tries to facilitate that.
But let's be honest. But then the recycling part of it is like, I worked for Boston Green Building when we first got going. It was like, oh, we're going to have 3 different dumpsters on the job site. We're going to get, 3 20-yard dumpsters. That one's cardboard. This one's scraps. This is something else.
Cardboard.
And then once you start digging into it, you're like, where's this go? It all goes to the same place. Like,
it goes into a landfill because China stopped buying it a couple years ago. Yeah.
And then now the prices went through the roof and no one can get rid of it. And now it's like, so what are we really doing? Like it's really is almost cutting it off, not accepting it. And like, I
think that, I mean, I feel like I've told this story on this podcast, but it's like when I lived
grab a drink. Drinking game.
It's a quick yeah, there you go. But it's like when we lived in that apartment and it's like they had the 3 containers, 2 trash and a recycling. And I remember going out there with my 2
and then
bags.
The truck comes up and it
and
all
dumps
goes into
all
one
3
thing.
into one truck.
Yeah.
And I was so aggravated. And I'm like, and John, you're exactly right. It's like, the immediate thing is like, how do we prevent that? How do we make sure that they bring 2 trucks? Then how do we make sure that truck doesn't get to the landfill and dump it in the same, like that's so much more work.
Dude, then it's 2 trucks.
But it's like, to your point, it's like, it's not that, it's preventing it from the beginning, like the source. And it's like thinking about that. And it's like despite knowing that, it's like we still have the recycling in the trash container. They still go in separate containers out in the yard.
It's a placebo effect. But
and Meg throws something. My wife throws something in the trash. I'm like, that's recycling. She goes, it goes to the same place, Nick. We've established that.
And then it's like you go away. And it's like they don't recycle here. Then you grab a plastic bag and you put all the recycles into it. And it's like, what'd I just do? Like what? I don't know. There's so many.
Made myself feel better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a thing. Like so.
They wouldn't pick up recycling at my house the one time because we put styrofoam in there. They like tagged the can and said that it was.
Oh, you got blackballed.
Contaminated.
Yeah.
They never came back to your house again.
It's like, God.
No recycling for you.
So what'd you do with it? You threw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. They were going to throw it.
It's like you're supposed to bring that to the styrofoam recycling facility down the street. It's an hour away.
Yeah.
But it's like this world is. We talked a little bit with John Ward in the last one, but it's like this is a disposable world.
Yeah.
The fact that Amazon will like, has anybody else thought about this? Where it's like I can't wrap my head around getting a process together, but Amazon was like, you know what? We're gonna ship stuff. You know what? Fuck the shipping. We're just gonna carry it ourselves and get like 4 billion trucks and employees and mass deliver stuff, and it's still free shipping for Prime. And I'm like, I can't get out of my own way.
Or when you order like a pen and it shows up in a big box.
Big box, yeah.
It's like I ordered like 30 things and they're like, yeah, but that's how we ship it. It's like
just the amount of waste.
And I feel like this was already a business plan, or I saw it on Shark Tank or something. But there was someone that was developing like how to collect those boxes back, because I like every week I bring the trash out again, recycling all the cardboard. I have like 30 Amazon boxes, and it's like whatever. Like
Whose fault is that?
So here,
it's ours.
You want a funny little ad lib about
there should be
shopping
something to
on
do
Amazon?
with that.
That's what I want to know.
The kids need new toys, new clothes.
See, there it is. You
Wife
throw out
wants a
the old ones.
spatula.
Yeah,
Yep.
the spatula melted because we left it in the
We
pan.
had to buy a pen.
So
They
so
give them
here's
out at the bank for free.
here's a funny little thing. So cellulose insulation, like, it comes from recycled newspaper. Well, we're running out of newspaper because nobody reads newspapers anymore. So now they're developing cellulose insulation made from recycled cardboard because we have this giant waste stream that we're creating now with cardboard.
Right.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, I feel like there should be a better way to deal with the boxes.
So there was, on my job today, the tile guy got done, and I stopped there, and I was like, I'm going to clean stuff up. And there were 2 cardboard boxes there that were the same size, completely sealed up. And I thought that they were the speakers that we had there for the electrician to rough in. So I opened them up, and it was just other cardboard boxes that were like shredded for packing material, but there was nothing inside of them. So it's super random story, but like they were making the packing, the padding inside of it out of shredded cardboard boxes, but there was actually nothing inside of the boxes but shredded cardboard. Which I meant to text
But what
the
about the
customer
ink?
about.
What about the ink? Like all this stuff that we have to think about, that if it's printed on, it's like plastic. My wife goes bonkers about how she sorts out the plastic because like certain things have labels, other things don't, and I'm like,
not all plastic's the same.
yeah, and I'm like, and then I watched like that plastic documentary on Netflix, and I was like, dude, like it's all like these people on the other side of the world, they wake up and they walk to wherever they go, the grocery store, on 2 feet of plastic,
Right.
and that's like our recycling.
They wake up in the plastic.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's they're trying to make a living. Their world revolves around it, and just disgusting. But no, it's like then what are we introducing the houses that have all that print?
So here's my thoughts on that. So regardless, we're going to have a certain amount of waste that we generate through projects like the Visqueen you've got hanging behind you. That is just kind of a given for construction. What we can have control over is the choice of the major materials that we use. So trying not to use foams, trying not to use steel as much as possible, trying to be smarter about the usage of concrete, trying to use cellulose insulation versus fiberglass or mineral wool insulation, trying to use rigid wood fiber instead of rigid foam. That's where we have a control, and that's really where it makes the impact. I'd love to, have like some granola eating crunchy job site where there's like no plastic and we hang like hemp paper for our painting and shit like that. But we're not there yet. Our economy's not right there. Yeah, exactly. Everybody has to have a beard like this and like long gray hair.
Everyone has to smell like patchouli.
Yeah. We can do it up here in Portland because we have recreational weed, so it's like half the population would fit right into there.
Do you know what I've been doing? I've been shoving the plastic bottles in the wall cavities before we close it up.
It's like finding the old whiskey bottles when you demo houses. Yeah.
So like it's insulating, and also I'm kind of not they're not going to the landfill.
We're gonna start doing that.
I take all this stuff from home, and I just right before we get inspection, I just start throwing it in the wall.
All the recycles they won't take.
You're saving it for when they figure out how to actually recycle it.
Yeah.
Hey Rachel, where's that styrofoam we couldn't get rid of?
Remember that kitchen?
Yeah. It's all right.
I mean,
like what are they called? We used to bury stuff in the ground. Time capsule.
Yeah. You're banking it. You're carbon banking.
Yeah.
But then the other part of this whole thing is like, it's like how we all build now. We build at a high level of execution, and we all drive whatever it is 20 minutes to a job site, and you pass 10 other projects that are absolute gong shows. And then how frustrating is that going to be that, like, let's just hypothetically say some sort of a system gets implemented that we all start following, and that turns into the top 10%. It's like, how long is this going to take for it to trickle down to the majority of the industry, for it to be accepted? For it, like, will it be in our lifetime that this impact is made, or is it our kids?
It's probably not going to be our lifetime, but
it's probably not our kids' lifetime.
Yeah, it maybe it depends on how things go. But So part of me walks that line of like, am I just wasting my time? Is this all a ruse? Should we just keep on the course of the normal? But we have to do this work in order to kind of set the stage and create the supply chains and figure out the methods so that it can trickle down into the rest of the industry. You know, I'm catching a little bit of flack from some, you know, real greeny weeny friends of mine because I'm going to build, you know, high-end multi-million-dollar passive houses. And they're like, that's ridiculous. But the thing is, in my mind is, well, it's better than them not doing passive house. And also by us doing those projects, it's setting the stage for those products to be more available and those supply chains to be created and those details to be worked through by people that have the budget to afford how to do it in order for that to make its way into the rest of the industry.
I think it's, even if it's a small impact, even if you build one a year, it's your impact.
Yeah.
That's what's important. I remember when I used to do houses in Newton, when I started closing up my shop, and I was like, I'm getting incandescent bulbs. Like, this is my jam. And people would look at me like when I went to like a holiday party and they'd be like, 15 bulbs is not changing the universe. And I'm like, but if I do 2-3 houses a year, that's, you know, that's a bunch more bulbs. And like, and maybe those people have a party and talk about, I've been cuckoo for a long time. So it's like, I think it's whatever impact people that are listening, the big thing is you are making an impact and it will multiply. But if you do nothing, then there's never going to be change. Yeah,
and on my end too, it's like, so I'm going to a company that we're going to be doing multiple houses a year versus, you know, some of these companies that are doing, you know, the more crunchy, super green, earth-friendly projects, they're maybe doing one a year. Arguably, I'm having a larger environmental impact by doing 6, 8, 10 large projects a year. Maybe not as crunchy around the edges as theirs are, but it's overall having a larger net effect on the whole than, you know, just doing lime plaster and earthen floors and straw bale.
I'm interested to see if you go to this high-end company, will you use the word green?
So it's in the name of the company. So there's that.
Probably.
So probably.
That's a yes.
Which
I'm leaning to yes.
More than the word blue.
Yeah, hopefully the employers don't take offense to this if they listen to this podcast. I have a lot of feelings about things being called green. Right. I have a lot of, you know, less than pleasing feelings for a lot of the crunchy people in the industry of where I think the industry is. And like we're talking about, like, you know, you do that one project a year that's super duper earth friendly, whereas I turn out 10 passive houses in a year. That's still better. I almost got chased out of a passive house conference a couple years ago because I brought up the fact that vinyl siding is better for the environment than painted wood siding. And people were like,
this is a good topic.
Like pitchforks and torches were coming out in the room, like ready to like hamstring me out of the place. And what it comes down to, and there is some question on the validity of this when you get down to the numbers. But so over the lifespan of that wood, what it took to mill it, harvest it, grow it, paint it, scrape it, repaint it, scrape it, repaint it, and vinyl has lasted for whatever 50 years, and you've got 3 coats of paint on that and all the embodied energy of the work to repaint that project. It's actually environmentally worse than the vinyl was.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, but did you look at it?
Well, yeah, that's a different thing. But but this was a conversation about somebody that was having a project where the client was on a budget. They wanted to do the most ecologically sound thing they could, and they were like trying to figure out what wood siding and paint they were going to use. And I said, why don't you put vinyl on it? And that's when the pitchforks and torches came out. But it's realistic. Like, you've got a client that's in that budget bracket. That might be the right solution for them. I don't know. Hey.
But
I could see that going very wrong, though, in that context at that type of event.
But when you're at that type of event, you're supposed to be dealing with people that are operating at the like highest level of the industry. They should be able to evaluate that for its merits in that context. But
ego gets in the way. And
so I have a big thing. Like I said, I'm second generation at this. I've built my own passive houses, certified passive houses with my own company. There's a lot of people that will pump the green smoke, but maybe haven't actually done this work. they'll talk about
There's
it.
a lot of people doing that right now on social media.
Well, yeah, no kidding. It's all across the industry. But so I have a hard time with it. And it's not me trying to like puff my chest about what I've done, but it's the reality of the industry.
So it's more of a marketing campaign.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's
actually.
like they drank the Kool-Aid and they want to, like play the part and, sound like they're part of that crowd or something like that, which is great. Like we need people to do that and get into it and do more of this work. But you also need to be realistic in the same hand.
Well, I think that's the beauty about building science.
Yeah.
Just you can have people that agree, but then building science is like college to like the elementary school. Like I feel like my old company that we worked with is Boston Green Building, and everything was green. That was like, God, what was that? Early 2000s? I don't remember anymore. But it was like green was everything. You had the Green Planet channel. You had like all Green Magazine. You had everything was green. And I remember, I forget who it was. Oh, it was Bruce Irving from This Old House. He was the old producer. And I remember I was sitting there talking to him like, and we did a show with him, and he's just like, yeah, he was doing a show about like, it was with Kevin O'Connor. It was like, This New House is what it was called. So it was like the next generation.
This greenhouse.
No, but so it was on the Green Channel, whatever it was, and he was doing a show for, whatever, and he goes, "Yeah, I would lose the green." Remember, he pulled me aside, and I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "In 5 more years, anything that the word green in it will be burnt out in toast," and he was 100% right, because it just got so overused and oversaturated, and then it was. Because what they had a network TV show that was based around green, and that absolutely just crushed it. Like it wasn't valued anymore. It was what I love about building science is now it's like the science part of it is what like scares everybody. It's like I got to know how this works,
right?
Instead of just slapping something up, putting in vinyl windows for replacements. Like
so that's why I'm pushing towards learning how to do carbon accounting. Upping my skills at energy modeling, because then you can show the numbers. You can say, okay, so this versus this, here's the clear winner in that. Or being able to show cost benefit analysis on a return on investment on 2 different wall sections.
But how does that work to the general public? This is going back to like HERS ratings. Mm-hmm. Like when you do all this, we're talking about one lane, which is the industry. And now we need to look at another lane, which is the people that are going to buy into this, which is the general public. And yes, you might get that small niche that's doing crazy passive houses, but like it's got to be on a major market platform like a Zillow or something else that's going to be able to celebrate that difference between the two.
It's heading there. You're already seeing, you hop on Zillow, what do you see? You see there's a line for HERS scores on there. So that's raising, public awareness.
Yeah,
it's happening.
That was us.
Yeah, you guys totally did that. And it's also like, so one of the other things is that there's a lot of push right now from lobbying is on getting mortgage companies to recognize, low energy performance on buildings, because then they can lend more on that building. So there's a big push right now in getting the mortgage companies to see that. And there are small niche lenders right now that will cater to that market. So as it's coming. It takes time.
You're right, though.
We'd all like to see this in 2 years, but it's going to take time.
Well, I think it's the same thing. Is I think knowing it that it may not have that impact right now. I think that's also knowing it, because you could do a deep dive into this and be 5 years in and just get so frustrated that you get like someone called me the other day, and then one of my clients like, I think you're onto something with the trade schools. They should bring them back, and like. The guy who voices it all the time, I pulled him aside. I was like, "Do you know how much work that's going to be? Like, that's how we started this. We're like, we're going to bring back trade schools to every school. It's so naive." And then you think about it. It's like, how do you get like we're talking about carbon? It's like you need to get like the insurance companies. You need to get the massive machines behind all this to get them to back it. Then it will happen overnight.
Yeah, exactly. So we can push on like the ICC right now to like keep upping the codes. But yeah, until we have like the NAHB behind it and the insurance companies behind it, then it's going to be incremental.
I mean, the big wall and the big hurdle is cost, right? Yeah. So it's going to take a certain financial investment to be able to build at that level. And I think until there's something brought to market where there's an affordability factor there, it's still it's going to be tough to bridge that gap.
But see, here's the thing. So everybody always gets hung up thinking that better performance has to cost more money. So I was able with my business to deliver, buildings that are operating substantially above code at about cost parity with code built. Because the fact is as we up insulation, there's a tipping point where you can downsize your mechanicals enough to pay for that insulation improvement. So I did HERS rater training. I'm ResNet certified. I'm not an active rater, but I learned the energy modeling through that. And I was able to sit there and put in wall sections in pre-construction and look at, if I go 2x4 with exterior insulation, if I go 2x6 with exterior insulation, if I go 2x8, how much more is that going to cost me? How much does that drop my heat load? And where's that splitting point? I'm not going to push for super high performance, but I'm going to turn those dials until I can get the best for that project that I possibly can.
Ben, let me pause you for a second, because this is an important point in Tyler's. You guys are both right, but the cost where Tyler is right, and I think you're kind of jumping over it, is your time to invest the knowledge to understand it and then implement it. And it's just like for us, right? We put a lot of thought into detail and attention to detail, and it's we don't get paid for that. We're not. I'm not getting paid to reinvent every single one of these details, but that's part of our brand, and that's what we want to build. Just like you want to put out that product.
I was able to afford to go down that rabbit hole. That was my evenings.
Whether it's time or money or whatever the case is, it's that it's we're in this industry, and I'm gonna I feel like every industry can attest to this, but there's so much complacency with what we do, where it's just this is easier. I'm just gonna do this.
Make more money doing it that way.
Yeah, I can make money. I don't have to think about this, because John just said it. It's you can get incredibly frustrated where it's you just talked moments ago. You were instead of Rockwool and fiberglass, you use cellulose. And I'm sitting here, I'm wait, what's wrong with Rockwool? And it's because I'm using Rockwool instead of foam, and it's and I know it's the carbon and stuff like that, but it's that level of thinking where it's there's so much to it behind all of these details, where it's it's great to hear that there's modeling software and stuff like that coming out, and that's great.
So this goes right back to what I've been saying about this is that it's going to take people doing this niche work in order for it to get more broadly available. Because, 5 years ago, were you using rigid mineral wool? Did you know rigid mineral wool existed on the outside of buildings?
4 years ago, yeah.
4 years ago, okay. But you knew there was foam. So what happened was guys started.
That's the first time I used it.
You could have just been okay, finished. You can keep going.
Yeah. I kind of left the door open there to see if he'd bite, and he totally did.
And I was like, this is a long pause. I'm gonna answer it. He's not gonna like the answer. John's gonna yell at me.
But so before that, you would have been using foam, right? And so you got aware of Rockwool because you saw people in the industry using it. So if there's people in the industry using rigid mineral or rigid wood fiber on the outside of buildings, you're going to become aware of it. It's going to be the same thing. So,
well, I think what we're both missing is, Nick, you've been describing it as that's the brand. This is what we do. This is what we pour into it. Back in the day, it was called experience. It would take you 10 years to knock down a system and kind of slowly manipulate it and move it. And I love the fact that technology is going to make modeling kind of fast forward that track, where it's oh, this is what I can do. Or it would be that one project where you had a little bit of a break and you're let me do the math on this. For me, it was foam. Do I put 20 inches of foam in that roof? Or is there a point of no return where I don't get any return back if I stop at 9? And it's doing that math and having that model and understanding that or going like we talked about in this podcast before, where I do 3 inches of closed cell foam and then put on, whatever it is, batt, and then we have condensation on the inside. It's that's experience, but if I had done the modeling, or if I had leaned a little heavier on the HERS rater,
or we had people in the industry that could act as consultants on the front end for you, so that you throw them $500 or $1,000 and they run through all your numbers for you in pre-construction, and then
or today it's someone's talking about it on social media.
Yeah, I feel like awareness is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
even dumb little things where it's just that every builder, contractor, remodeler could implement, or even just bring it to the forefront of their thinking, where you're not just going through the motions, and you're actually taking something into consideration.
Well, it's like that thing, like you said about experience. It's like, guys back in the day when I was a kid, it was my dad knew to insulate before they set the tub. And a lot of guys would miss that. And then you have people that don't use their tubs because they're cold. But in the houses he built, people could use
because he built one for himself. And he got in the tub and he was like, "Damn, this is cold."
And then he got and then he got crazy and he put 3 feet of slant fin behind the cast iron tub before he insulated it. And now he's got a heated tub.
That's a good idea.
That is a good one, isn't it?
I remember growing up, it was just like everyone got in the tub at once. It's like run one bath. Everyone's going to hop in till it's completely dirty and then wrap it up for the night.
And the hot water heater couldn't do any more than that anyway.
Yeah.
So
you had the cast iron tub. My dad used to be like, "Man, put the water on hot when you first fill it up, and then it warms the cast iron. It'll stay hot for longer." It's like, all right.
But it's the same thing. You just said cast iron tubs. Like, I still put in cast iron tubs. My plumbers are like, "Why are we doing that?"
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it is efficient. Like filling the tub and not having to keep filling. Yeah,
because it's a better product. That's why you're putting them in. Yeah,
but it's like as soon as you walk in somewhere and like I walked into a $5 million house and like I'll kick the side of the tub and I'm like, oh, it's plastic.
The only reason they don't want to do it is because they don't want to carry it. Or right. Like that's the only reason.
Because they can't find any 17-year-olds to hire in order to carry the things up the stairs for them. So
17-year-olds are on a device somewhere.
Yeah.
Just.
A whole nother rabbit hole right there.
I got him in the other room.
Going like speaking of cast iron tubs, it's I think then it's looking at the question, right? Like obviously plastic's out, but is that the best product? I feel like this is where the rabbit hole becomes. Is like, all right, how do I know? Like, should I use a cast iron tub? Okay, it's more efficient, but actually has a worse carbon footprint than.
Yeah, but you probably don't have to replace it every time that you remodel that bathroom.
Right. I mean,
depends on who's remodeling it.
Yeah, but it's also
but still
reglaze it.
But there's so much level to this, and again, yes, it's awareness and it's teaching it, and it's not going to be our generation, and maybe it's our kids' generation, but and again, it's like the complacency through most people aren't going to want to put the work into it. Yes, you can. You're doing 10 houses a year that is making a bigger impact than the guy doing one, but it's just all of that. I don't know where I'm going with this thought.
It seems insurmountable. It just seems like it's never going to happen. But I feel like just as with anything else, that's where it's one thing, and then that leads to the next thing, and just baby steps and kind
product development.
Just bite off what you're aware of. That's all you can do.
Yeah, but what about if I don't want to know about it? Maybe I love a company and I love a product, and maybe I want to turn my eye and be like, you know what?
Then that's your choice. That's your choice to make.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, in my head, I'm like, God, I love that tub. I've been using that tub for like 17 years. Then I'm going to find out that it's got a massive carbon footprint and been like, not only am I never going to use it again, now I feel bad that I put it in the last 17 or 18 houses. And then it's like, no, am I going to keep doing this? Am I going to keep looking up every product I put in and finding this crap out?
It's the same thing there where it's...
But it's the big stuff. It's not that tub that's going to make or break the environmental impact of that house. It's the big stuff. It's the framing material. It's the insulation choices. It's people get hung up about like the Intello barriers and stuff like that. They're like, well, that's made of plastic. It's like there's so little of that. Like in the grand scale of what goes into the building, you're talking about like a 0.5 millimeter thick layer in there. Whereas we've got how many tons worth of lumber and how many tens of tons worth of concrete going in. Those are the places we have to pay attention to. Getting hung up over the bathtub's not going to do anything.
He just yelled at me.
I mean, how many bathtubs are you going to put in a house over the course of your lifetime?
Yeah.
No, it's...
Or it's you become aware of the fact that bathtub isn't the best choice, and you do something else on the project to offset it.
No, I'm gonna look up another shittier tub and be like, mine's better than that, so I'm still winning.
It's like when you drive by the job site, it's like, that one's pretty clean. Yeah, that one
only comes in almond. Yeah.
They should stop making almond. What is that for?
Bone.
Same with the plugs and switches. Like,
Oh, God.
who's putting
Oh,
almond
who
in?
uses
Smokers?
them?
We just had a client.
Exactly.
We just had a client that wanted almond, devices. I was like, oh my God.
You're like, sorry, they ran out. They're back ordered.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
They
you
don't
gotta go
exist
white.
anymore. Yeah. The Flintstones took all of them.
Oh my God. I feel like my house has all almond. Makes sense. I feel like, yeah.
Tyler's literally looking around and then
No, I
thinking about the rooms upstairs. He's like,
house
You're
from.
definitely
giving
the
them
one
a
upstairs.
complex.
If
Yeah.
you knew who I bought my house from, you'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, these could also be white at some point, and they're like the smoker's teeth that were once white, and now they're almond.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like my entire house is almond.
Used to be
well.
white.
Yeah.
It's
I feel like
Sorry.
no, go
maybe
ahead.
just...
I'm going to take off the topic somewhere else. So, Nick, if you want to stay on this.
No, go ahead.
I actually want to dig into something. You said that you dropped out of school when you were 16.
Yeah.
How has that affected your livelihood, your career? Is that something that comes up when you go to look at job interviews? At this point, it's a non-issue.
No, it's a non-issue. So I dropped out of school when I was 16. And this is like a full disclosure here. So I used to score 99th percentile on any tests that they gave me, but I had no interest in doing homework. So my thing is it's like, well, I obviously understand this stuff. Why do I have to bother doing this stupid worksheet that you gave me? So my grades went to hell because of that. So they finally, family bounced me around to different schools, this, that, the other thing, yada, yada, yada. I just had no interest in doing it. It was just the age, the stupidity, so on and so forth. So they were finally like, listen, this isn't going to work. And they said, we think that, you making the choice to drop out is, probably the best move for you.
And is that something that started around those teenage years, or is that, looking back on it, something that you had been battling your entire life?
It's probably my whole life. Yeah. I'm kind of like an ingrained nonconformist to some degree.
Yeah, I look back on my academic career, and it was going through the motions and basically doing what I had to do. Everything on paper, like you look at the GPA, everything on paper, all checked out. But it was like I was just doing what I had to get those grades, and not actually, like, I wasn't there. I wasn't retaining anything. I just knew how to work the system, and I tested well.
Yeah.
Which got me.
I had no interest in working the system. My whole thing I was like, well, school is about learning, right? So I'm obviously learning this stuff. Why do I need to jump through these hoops? And like in hindsight, it's an adult now. Like I see, like, obviously there's lessons there in the actual jumping through the hoops that I didn't do. But, if I had any regrets, it was kind of biting my nose to spite my face, because I would have loved to have, really pursued an academic career. At that age, I didn't want to, but now as an adult, I wish I had had that opportunity.
Do you think that anything could have been done to engage you more in school? Had there been, whether it's curriculum that were more in tune to you, something that were more hands-on?
Yeah, it would have had to have been like a totally like non-traditional schooling situation. Because like in ninth grade, they were like, well, maybe he has a learning disability. So they sent me for all these cognitive tests, and I was reading at a graduate school level in ninth grade. And so it was like I was obviously capable of bringing in information and retaining information and digesting information, but I just wasn't getting stimulated in school whatsoever. Like they go through science class and math class and English class, and it would all just stick, and the test would come, and I understood all of it, and I could go through all of it, but they weren't putting there was nothing being put in front of me that interested me.
Yeah. I feel like I was in the exact same boat throughout all of school, and it was like I was bored, right? So they'd put you in the grade above for math and science, and then I would still be bored, and they're like, well, that didn't fix it. And again, it, like on paper, it all checked out, but I feel like most of my academic career, I could have been spending my time much better and much more productive.
But that's
ways.
the school system paradigm. The whole thing. It's like they try and cram everybody into that round hole.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs a round hole.
Well, that's good that it didn't. I feel like that's the way that they scare.
Yeah, because I was able to go into the trades because I was a degenerate youth. So
yeah,
where else do you go?
I don't know. I feel like you just grow a beard and then start building, right?
I used to not be able to grow a beard. It used to just be sideburns, and the framers on the job site used to call me Burns, throwing framing scraps from the roof down for me to pick up. Burns, go get that.
That's great. I still can't grow sideburns.
You're 70% there.
Yeah, this is like 2 months worth of growth. No, but I feel like in school, they scare you into. You're an extreme example of that. I would not advocate for people to drop out of school at 16, although I remember hearing stories of that and like my favorite musicians who all dropped out of school, and I'm like, yo, that'd be so sick to drop out of school at 16. I'm not advocating for that.
No, me
but
either.
That it's nice to know that you can continue, you can create a career for yourself, you can do what you want with your life, and 10 years down the road, how old are you?
38.
All right, so 20 years down the road, your high school experience and what you put forth in life is not necessarily affecting your day-to-day. That's not coming up at job interviews. That's a non-issue at this point.
And it never is. So it never. I guess because I've spent most of my working life in the trades, aside from a couple of little side forays, but it never really did.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the, to go down this skilled trades rabbit hole. I think that's part of the trap that they set people up to think exists. Is that if you don't have that high school diploma, you don't have that college degree, you're not going to get jobs.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's the trades, and it's like I now I consider myself to be a perfectly respectable, upstanding member of society that's contributing something to my industry, and I dropped out when I was 16.
Yeah,
never impacted me.
I think on the flip side, I don't think anyone's ever asked me, even though I went to college. Just on the flip side, like it didn't benefit me either. Yeah. Like going through all that and getting that debt, it just, no one ever asked me, hey, like I always, how any of you guys worried when you were younger? It's like, when I go to a job interview, they're going to ask me my GPA. Yeah. Like I used to think that and be like, all right, my GPA sucks. Like, what am I going to say to somebody? What's my answer going to be that's going to be worth it? And I was so relieved at a job interview that it was like, oh, no one asked that. Okay, cool.
They're like, can you show up on time?
Yeah. Nothing to do with what they tell you in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had one person hire me, and they told me that they hired me because I was a college graduate, and I thought to myself, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you hired me as a contractor because I have a college degree. It just kind of blew my mind. Like, I didn't feel like one thing had anything to do with the other.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't
there's clearly some things that like people with college degrees have legs up in the industry because you usually have better, writing and verbal communication skills than somebody that didn't have that experience.
Better drinking skills.
Yeah, better drinking skills, So it definitely does afford you some stuff. It doesn't afford you what they tell you it does, though. It's not that you have that, whatever fine arts degree or something that's helping you. It's just the tertiary effects of that education that benefit you.
Yeah, that was a huge eye-opening experience for me in college, where you think that you're setting yourself up and you're giving yourself this opportunity to succeed, and that things are going to start falling in place, and you realize that it's really just about the effort you put in. It's about the connections that you make. And I remember learning that in school and feeling so defeated and deflated, like I didn't have to do all this. Like this is for nothing. I could have, saved the money. I could have done something else. I could have made good connections and spent a lot of my energy elsewhere and been far more productive. And it was just like, I don't know if it was being naive or just never questioning that, or just, kind of marching in line and this is what you're supposed to do. But it never even crossed my mind until I was sitting there and realized, like, no, it's about what you put in. Like, what you're going to get out is about what you put in. And it's not about a piece of paper.
Yeah. You could have dropped out at 16 and had bird's mouth scraps thrown at you from the 3rd floor by the framers.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have had sideburns. You know?
They would have called you goat or something.
Probably like peach. Fuzz.
John, what did you want to dig into?
No, I'll get another topic still, but no, I think it's gonna be more valuable to get into this stuff because with AI and supercomputers and them being able to understand like hedge funds and diagnosis and all that stuff, I think all the stuff that people have been going to school for I don't know 8 years, master's degrees in it, it's gonna get wiped out, and that's why I always fight Nick on how do we panelize this? How do we do that? And it's like you're giving into that, and it's it's only going to create a bigger separation in this industry from middle America might need the Toll Brothers and the Pulte homes that get panelized that you don't need a craftsman. It's like Ferrari versus a Kia. The Ferrari is going to be more valuable every year going forward because craftsmen are still building that.
Yeah,
and I just think it's getting out there and knowing it. Like I've talked about in this podcast, Bruce, my mechanic, who has 3 bays in his shop, and he runs just a well-oiled machine. I always joke with him. I'm like, I was like, you should get some Kaizen inserts so that way, like all his shit's where it needs to be, but there's no defining, no labels on anything. And I'm like, you should do this because it's always a well. And I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, this is such a great. I'm like, we're gonna put solar. Like when we go, I go there, not even for my truck. I go there, drink a beer, and I'm like, yo. So we put solar on the roof. We put a couple car chargers, and then you got to get in a list for maintaining one of the top 3 trucks to come out from the first round of electric. We were just talking about this on the way home, and it's like that's what you have to keep this going. I don't want it to be like going in, Back to the Future, where remember the Back to the Future where he goes back in time and he looks at the gas station and there's 4 people working there that are cleaning the windshield, checking the oil, checking the tire pressure, filling the tank, all that stuff. And it's those were all entry level jobs. That's what got people in it. Those all got wiped out.
But we're going to have, so even if we go to panelize, so we've actually lowered the bar if we go to panelize, because now you can have somebody trained for one position on a job floor. And now you have more people able to get into the industry because there's a even lower barrier.
But what's the ceiling? I'm with you, but that gets you a bunch of laborers. But no one wants to be laborers. Look at what happens now. Everyone wants to come in with 2 years experience, and they go, I want 80 grand.
But I don't think that's totally true. I think there are still plenty of people that want to be laborers.
Agree. Different markets. I'm with you.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What's everyone also? I'm not gonna say everyone, but a lot of people want to grow. So I think the ceiling is at a point that's really low there. That you're gonna hit a point, and it's all right. Where do I go now? I only need. Look at the car industry.
You become like the site supervisor. So you work your way through the whole floor, and then you go out to actually do the installs of these panelized units or these modular units or something like that. So,
the whole goal is to eliminate how many people you need. That's the essence of what they're doing.
I don't think it's so much that it's to eliminate. So my view on panelized and offsite construction isn't to eliminate the number of people you need. It's to take the number of people you need into a more controlled environment to be able to produce at a much leaner effectiveness.
Right. Because
so
it's the same guy.
Just as many people. You still have to drive just as many nails. You still have to have
less
just as
qualified
many studs.
people.
Yeah, but that's what we have right now. So I don't think so. People have been talking about panelized and modular for 40 years.
So we should simplify construction because there's less experienced people in it.
I wish everyone could see John's face right now.
Do you want me to throw my laptop? Shouldn't it be?
Listen, Johnny.
Let's find a way to educate people to keep the craft. Why is New England so goddamn good about architecture and craftsmanship and all that? It's because we've been surrounded by it our whole lives.
They're not coming.
If I was in fucking Kansas, I wouldn't have this passion for it because guess what? I never fucking saw it.
Have you been to Kansas?
No, I haven't. Just throwing cans.
Yeah, you're not
out
missing
there.
much. They're not coming.
We just
for
lost
us.
like
that
20% of our listeners.
That industry's
20.
not coming for us, Johnny. That's not coming for our market.
It's coming
That's not
for all
coming
of
for
us.
our clients.
Look at the car
bullshit.
industry.
They've
It
been
happened.
saying that for 40 years.
It's
Come
coming.
on. Ever since I was a kid.
If
You know,
we
my
let
old-
Nick at it and he starts posting on it, fuck, it's gonna take.
Oh god, yeah. It's influencer.
Kind of has a
craze.
point.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
Let's keep
If
John
Nick
going.
does
I'm
start
liking this.
penalizing, then it's game over. Everyone's going to be
But, I mean,
penalizing everything. I'm going
to
to be doing
Ben's
the
point,
bathroom
though-
and penalizing it.
But to Ben's point, it won't touch our market. It just won't. You know, it might sprinkle. Like, for instance, I built 3 houses on one street, and there was a property that went up for sale for $1.4 million. And the neighbors texted me today, and they goes, "Hey, look who got it." Bottom. Okay, nothing again. No one's gonna know the address, but bottom tier builder does a lot of like production stuff. I know the kid that's doing it. He's like, used to brag about building them in 45 days. I'm like, dude, when's the concrete set? Like, how are you loading that up? Like, whatever. And we've built $3-4 million houses around it, and I'm like, what's it do to the market? Like, what's gonna happen for him to buy that property for $1.4 million? He has to build it. He has to take it from like the actual details, from the execution that goes into that. So like, yeah, I'm all for the carbon footprint. I'm all for the HERS rating, the efficiency, because it would educate the other people in that neighborhood to go, hey, maybe we should have pulled together and bought that property, so that way this would never have happened.
So we don't have this travesty across the street now.
Yeah, so like that won't happen in our industry. Like there might be exceptions here and there, but for the majority, but it is like the nothing from the never-ending story in my eyes. Like once it starts rolling, it's gonna get to all the other states that may have had.
But let's look at like the extreme example of panelization, right? Like Benson would, where it's like I wouldn't say that they're less qualified people putting that stuff together. They're still, it's maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not saying that. I think go ahead.
I guess my point is like I feel as though the conversation is a little going from one extreme to the other, where it's like you could have a bunch of crap carpenters stick frame it, or you could have a bunch of crap carpenters panelize it, or it could be the other way.
The answer isn't to panelize and to put more money into panelization.
But I don't
the answer
think
is to put money into education, into the trades.
We have to do both.
But I don't like. I'm not.
It's not one or the other. It's got to be both.
One's going to be an option.
One's
by money, by a machine that people.
But
will
I
see
don't
that they
think
make money.
panelization
one of them's going to be
is-
policy driven, and one of them's going to be market driven.
But I
So
don't
the
think
education's
panelization
gonna
is
come from-
an answer to this. I think
No.
panelization is just a product of trying to be more lean, and like the thing that attracts me the most is it's in a controlled environment. There's less waste, and it's thought through. Like that's the biggest thing, is like you're thinking about this before you're on site, and thus you're losing less. You're using less material.
Nick,
Where
what's
it's
your title with NS Builders?
my title?
Yeah, what's your label that you have a business card on?
Hold on. Creative director.
So that's what gets eliminated,
Right?
I'm not. I think what Benson
No,
is doing
I
and
totally
what Toll
disagree.
Brothers is doing are two different universes. Okay,
I
What
agree
I'm
with
worried
that,
about
but
is
I
that-
disagree with the fact that it eliminates the creativity.
I just
So-
want
so-
people
100%
who are
disagree with
building
that.
wall panels in a factory on my job doing stuff. Like I feel like if that's their forte, that's their okay, stay there. You're going through the production line, assembly line, fine. It's the same thing as like Marvin Windows. I don't want that person coming out to site and building an entire window package on site, because that's now out of their comfort range and their ability.
But you get to still design the window.
Sure, I don't really have
They don't want the field carpenter coming in and building the windows in their shop either.
Exactly. And I think that they're separate from one another. I don't think that there's necessarily a crossover between the two, and I don't think that one's going to stay and one's going to go away. I think that you definitely need both, and I think that there's a time and a place for each of them. I don't think that I don't see them meshing. I feel like they're always going to be independent of each other. Maybe you can integrate it to a certain extent, but it's the same thing as like stick framing a roof versus framing it with trusses. There's a time and a place for each and budget. And I think that when it comes down to it, there's certain jobs where you're just going to want to stick frame roof, and you need that, and you need the slow pace, and you need to be able to make those changes, and it's critical and it's important. And I don't think that you would even offer trusses on those type of jobs.
Like, listen, if we have a good panelized industry that we can rely on to deliver good product, you might get a job where it's like the client's like, listen, we've got this house or this ADU that we want to put up. It could fill a little 60-day time slot in your calendar. Like, it's just another arrow in your quiver to be able to have. I guess my real question is Johnny, did you have like a traumatic experience with like the Terminator movie or something as a kid? Because he's afraid the machine's coming for him, buddy. It's okay. It's just, it's another thing for you, just embrace it. It's not going to take our jobs. It's not going to take our kids' jobs, maybe our grandkids, but by then they'll have robots that are tracking around with 5-axis arms that are doing our jobs anyways. So, that's just the basic technology.
You brought up all great points. Like the window analogy is perfect. I just feel like there's limitations to windows, and we've just come accustomed to that. And I think we all feel like, hey, when you find this new thing, or you go to a Tischler, you go to something that they'll make whatever you want. It opens up these massive corridors of creativity that you're like, I can miter the outside. I want to do this.
Of course, but it's still built in a factory.
I'm with you. Okay. My point is that we're talking about the unbelievable market that we have. And if you look at like vinyl windows a couple of years ago, they were limited on sizes. So that limited the design of homes that had smaller windows everywhere. And that killed the creativity and the architecture of certain areas of whatever demographics. I just feel like I'm fine with glorifying this and this part of it, because I am worried about it, that I think there'll be less people that want to learn more about it. Like Tyler talked about a stick frame roof. You need one more major correction in this industry to wipe out a whole bunch of people that really know how to frame stuff, not just take pictures of their pocket roof handbook and go, that's brand new, that has no edges that creased, nothing that's tabbed out, nothing that's fallen off the roof. You're not a roofer. You're not a framer at that point. There's probably
no blood and coffee stains on it. Yeah.
There's probably, I want to say 30 to 50 people that are on social media that really know how to frame a roof, which is crazy. Okay. And I feel like there's more and more of that's going to happen. And I'm not worried about my market in particular. I'm worried about it then infiltrating more of it. And it's simplified design, Nick. I think it's great to have panelization on the right product if it's going to work. It was like I used to look into Superior walls. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It's thermally broken. It's already cut out. Boom, boom, boom. Then I got into it. They couldn't do the first 7 houses that I reached out to them on because there was too many corners. And I was like, all right, I don't want to sacrifice this. Every time I've kind of ran down that road of trying to do efficiency that changed the game, I've been roadblocked by, you have to compromise design.
Right.
So I've always been like, you know what, whatever. And then when my head goes crazy and like the Terminator movie I have playing in my head, it's like, all right, so when you order that window, you know what's coming. And then you're stuck with, hey, all right, I can move this window a little bit, or I can reuse this, or this is perfect the way I want it. And over experience, you nail it out of the park. When we all start, there's a few extra windows here and there that you got to buy and toss and put underneath the porch and in the garage. But
you can use that on a shed.
But then you have time to buy that window or whatever, or talk to the client about how you're going to see that. The other part of it is, now you're talking about the whole house gets done in the shop. And then you want to walk that house. Like, say it's your dad's house, Nick, and the lake. You pick these windows. Everything looks good on paper. You're like, let's do this. Let's do the layout. And then you get it there and you put the first wall up that's panelized and you go, man, I'm looking at trees when the water's here. I just didn't see that part of it.
But that's not the fault of the panelization. That's the fault of the architect.
Red light. My point is now you frame that wall. Okay? There's carpenters on site that go, all right, I can swap that header. I can buy another LVL. I know what the span is. I'll pop it in here. We'll shift those windows over. You panelize that. Let's fast forward 15 years. Let's just 15, throw it out there. Now you get that system here. there's no carpenters there. There's one foreman that's gone to a couple classes that knows that he can then run these laborers. Okay?
That's the extreme.
I just said that. I leaded it into that. But
Oh,
my point is
I
that
didn't realize 15 years was extreme.
yeah, okay, it is. It could happen. I'm not saying in your
No,
market, but
I
now
thought-
that window has to stay because that was engineered wherever it was in Kansas. And then when it gets here, you go, all right, I can't change that. It's like steel. Okay, I can't change that because no one here knows. It's how. What happens is the terminology goes. It's how it comes. That's how we got it. So now you got to live with it. And what I worry about is that being the norm.
So we're in 15 years from now. Do you think that we're doing a disservice by think about
56.
dang, what am I, 45, 46?
You're like fucking
47. No, but the other side of that, what Ben just touched on, is the architect, right? So 15 years from now, talk about right now. The design is getting to a point where everything is photorealistic. You're walking stuff in VR.
That's
Who's to
extreme.
say they can't go through a Matterport out on the site and Matterport scan the whole place beforehand and show you exactly in VR
You two stop
what the
it
view
right
is
now.
going to be. It's
You
just
two,
the reality.
I'm going to moderate
it's the
this.
reality of it.
Mute both their screens right now. Okay.
So what I'm hearing out of this, Johnny, is there's always going to be people that can afford architecture, and then there's going to be people that need houses.
Okay, hold on.
Those are
what's
two different
what's
ends of the
happening
market.
to software right now? Okay, when I went to architecture school, you could draw whatever you wanted. Now I get a software that has templates. Okay, and
You're talking the extreme again, though.
No, no, chief architect. It's out there. There's people doing it right now.
But how many good architects do you know are using chief architect?
I'm not
They're
a good
using-
example. I'm talking
They're not
about
using
everyone.
chief architect. They're in Revit. They're doing BIM.
How
But
big
that's
of a
the-
company is chief
but that's
architect? They're not
the-
selling to 4 people. Let's be honest.
the guy
No, but
They're
those are the people that
massive
need, those are
market.
the people that need houses. Those aren't people that are buying architecture.
Right. I mean, if the guy that's designing in chief architect and panelizes it, they're not going to give a shit if they look out the window and see a tree. But the guy that works with an architect that, like Ben said, you Matterport it or whatever, it's we're getting to a point where we're putting all of this time in design, and you're getting to experience. That's the key word here. You're experiencing the home before you're building it. So all of those changes are able to be made.
If anything, we're opening up the freedom to have even more creativity on the architectural end because we can spend more time and money on the front end because we've streamlined the actual construction process.
And it's not a field
value
decision.
Engineered that exactly.
It's not
we've
all right,
gone through the conceptuals and we've walked the client through in 3D of what it's going to look like before there's even a hole in the ground.
And it's not a matter of all right, do I pay my carpenter another day to move that window? It's no, the window's in the perfect spot because we've planned for it.
Johnny's never going to talk to me in real life.
I
I
kind
will.
of feel like
He still talks to me.
when something is, I think that there's a big difference between custom, semi-custom, builder's grade house, and personally, I feel like you could spend the time and the energy to pre-design, so that Nick, you could use panelization. I think if you're creating this experience for someone and you want a truly custom house, that it should be done live. That should be done in person. And sure, maybe panelization could be integrated into certain aspects of it. But I just feel like with anything, whether it was a piece of art, a tattoo, if it was a car, that when you are creating something custom that's one of a kind, I think that there's a certain process that goes into that and an experience that goes into that. And I don't know if panelization fits that mold. I think that's where they should be somewhat separate.
Just like you rejected Superior Walls because they couldn't match your goals for your project.
They're a sponsor.
Just like you rejected Superior Walls because they couldn't match your expectations for your projects. People are going to reject panelization because it doesn't match the needs of their projects.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that Superior Wall isn't a company that's been around for how many decades now.
Yeah, but they've been
doing
sold
well.
to who? It's a franchise.
But it's obviously successful enough.
Not even in
franchise.
Massachusetts or in New York. You can't even.
Sure.
I
just
don't
think-
think I'm not
I don't go to
I'm not
Dunks, they're a
opposed to
franchise.
one or the other. I know that John is like
Go to Starbucks.
very strongly opinionated in this matter, and I completely get where you're coming from, and I do agree with
He's
a
gonna
lot
let
of
me down easier. That's what he's doing.
No, I feel like I agree with a lot of your points, and I just feel like there's a big difference between. I mean, look at who we spoke with last week, where it's like he's creating cars and he's 3D printing specific items for the car and putting that on. Every single car is different. He's not buying pre-made parts for it, and that's the type of car, that's the market, and I think that that's always going to be there. And I don't think with what he does that there's room in his model for anything that would kind of go down that route. And I think that there's a time and a place for each one.
But
I'm not an advocate for panelization. I think that if it could create a more architecturally correct house at a better price point for people, I would rather that than the turds that I see put up every single day that are being stick built by carpenters that are just like, oh, every fourth house is the same thing. I think that there could potentially be benefits to that from an architectural standpoint. But again, it's the amount of time and energy that you'd have to put into that pre-construction and spending how much time figuring out where the trees are and how they lay on the property and where the sun comes up and where the wind is, that it's almost like when you get into that level of detail and that experience, I think that it should be a slow progression. You should take small steps. You're not looking to take a ton backwards. And I think custom is custom, and there's an entire another market. And I think that they will both exist, and I think that they can both exist together.
Jonathan Ward is a perfect example of this, and you talked about 3D printing, and that I feel like that's a direct relationship to panelization or making
Did
the
you
part.
see his next post after that where he had the rim assembly?
Yeah.
No.
So you could see if it cleared the brakes. It was all 3D printed to see if it would make it by.
But that's the
caliper.
he's there. It's the forethought. It's the testing. It's cutting. It's making the part on the CNC rather than cutting aluminum and making and taking it together.
I'm fine using them as tools.
Correct. It's the same argument I have with Ken here in the shop. It's like, a friend of ours was here this morning, and he was like, "Hey, when are you guys buying a CNC?" And I'm like, Ken will never buy one. And it was like, it's a knee-jerk reaction, but
Nick would.
The fact of the matter is, like, Ken really enjoys the process of material, like building the cabinetry, and doesn't want us to get to a point where we're manufacturing everything on a CNC. It takes the craft out. John, same page. But the flip side, and where he agrees, is the actual capabilities of a CNC, where it's like you can surface things and create shapes and
it can take the grunt out of processing 30 sheets of 3/4 ply, and then
Agreed.
you get to
And
actually apply the craft of the part that needs it.
And that's where my mind is at. He's less on board with that. He's like, I would prefer to process this stuff by hand. It's just the way he likes to do it.
Yeah.
But it's when you utilize it to the max capability of, like, the 3D handle that we put into the pocket door, like when you're using it in a more creative, artistic way, that's where it has this depth. And to relate that back to, like, panelization or the 3D printing or the CNC for John on his one of a kind custom Broncos, that's what it's for. It's to take something that would be otherwise extremely difficult or maybe impossible to manufacture by hand within the tolerances necessary, and utilizing them, just like you said, John, as a tool to build that process.
So, Nick, with the cabinetry, the first time I died inside a little bit was when I found out that no one does, like, the dovetail drawers by hand. My question to you is, how valuable do you make, like, you always talk about, like, the 1-inch thick doors, and you have walnut exterior and interior of the cabinetry, and, like, we do exteriors, but the inside's still maple, it's pre-finished. Mm-hmm. Do you think there'd be more value in the cabinet would people see it if you were saying, hey, we were doing the dovetails on these drawers are by hand, like they're hand cut, they're not even done by the
Unfortunately, no.
But why not? If you celebrate it like you did everything else, what's the return on that? Like, is that just dead forever?
There's so much labor involved in that scenario.
I just don't think anyone.
But it's the same as Jonathan
feel
Ward.
like you
How much
shouldn't
labor is involved in his vehicles in every
You
little
shouldn't
detail.
be putting drawer fronts on your
he's
drawers.
But he's not
You should
hand
be
making those.
dovetailing the face of the drawer onto the box. That's when you know you're legit.
But
you
that's
don't have the false front.
But that's like, so if you want to talk about dovetails, you're still going to have the people that are going to buy the $80,000 custom Chippendale Highboy, like they're going to buy the $120,000 custom Bronco, but they're not going to have the person that makes that custom Highboy, doing the trim in their house.
But it's like, I mean, I don't think John's hand making all those parts. Like, he's utilizing tools to make them. It's the same thing as the drawers. Like, we, doing it by hand with a router on a dovetail jig. Yeah, I mean, we'll do it. But if there's a,
we're not talking routers. We're talking chisels and saws.
If Humphrey Munson
Dovetail
said he
saws.
handed his drawers, would you do it?
No.
If he what?
If Humphrey Munson said he was hand doing his drawers,
No.
dovetails would.
I thought you said if Humphrey Munson handed you his draws. I was like, what? Where did this just go?
No, it's not. I know what you're getting
honestly
at there,
feel
but
like it's
just,
apples to oranges. I don't think that we're even discussing the same things.
Those are two different classes of quality.
I just think even as far as panelization, like what John's saying and what people would be using them for, it's two different things, and I think that there's definitely a time and a place for each. But I think that you can't really have, I don't know, maybe you can have one without the other, but I feel like we can't get away from custom. That still
Right.
needs to be there, even as far as the dovetails. Like, there still needs to be the furniture made that way and everything else. But there may be more opportunities to build a better overall product if we are able to cut budget some places and put it elsewhere. But I don't know. I think I don't think it's quite as easy or as black and white as it may be portrayed as. That being said, I'm going to start panelizing.
Hey, who knows when it happens and I do it? Evolution's good.
I feel like it's me with Ford. Like, I told my dad when I was 16 I'd never buy a Ford, and every time I consider it, I'm like, can't.
Yeah,
Like
I won't ever buy a Ford again.
I can't buy a Ford. And John's just gonna be like, hey, we're gonna panelize this job. Like, yeah, I can't, man. Said it on podcast 140. Never do it.
It would be hard for me to do it.
I know, but I do, like, I we don't have to keep going around this, but it's like, I think it's the same thing as like working with a production framer versus a high performance framer, right? It's like there is a time and place for both, and it depends on what your goal is.
Yeah, budget, all that.
Right.
Am I cutting out?
No, not at all.
Because you guys are cutting out on me.
Nope.
I think we're cutting you out.
That's all right. I deserve it.
No, I can't. You seem fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. So Ben, what I wanted to figure out was, like, hindsight, looking back at your company, is there ever a moment where you're like, if I had made this change, if I had given this thing up, whether it was the tool belt or the accounting or business development or whatever it was, could you have captured that flaw with someone else and been able to keep your company going without any sacrifice?
I didn't really have an interest in that. Is really what it comes down to. So when I was hanging it up, I wanted a total sea change. If I was going as far as to close up the business, I wanted new scenery. It wasn't like there was, like you guys asked before, if there was like a straw that broke the camel's back. There wasn't like one flaw that I could have like removed the accounting or something like that, and then like everything would have been hunky dory. Really, what it was is my interests in building and executing out past my interests in growing a business. For me to be able to do the projects that I was interested in doing, I would have had to keep scaling my business orders of magnitude larger, and I didn't have an interest in that.
That's good. And then at what point did you realize, like, can you look back at the experience that at a certain level of experience, I think you said 25 years or longer you've been doing it, was it like, I know it sounds so arbitrary, but to be like, hey, at like 20 years in is when you could look back and go, God, I need to put the tool belt away. And this is where I value. My mind can comprehend what others can't on a job site, where I always mess around and go, it's like the Matrix. There's a lot of people in the Matrix that don't even know they're there. Yeah. But then at a certain level of experience, you got it and you're like, oh, these are the ones and twos. I can shape this. This is my world.
Yeah. It was, in all honesty, it was in the past 2 years. So I was about a year into working for Kolbert here and started to see having removed myself outside of my business, I got a different view of my skills. I was able to see that I really excelled at managing projects. What I just took as my culture of the way everything worked in Connecticut. I started to see that culture being noticed by the subs and the suppliers that I was dealing with up here. They're like, hey, you're the builder that we like to come work for. You know, you're the guy that's got everything all set for us. You know, you're the guy that brings us coffee and donuts. You know, like, I started to see, like, what I took for granted is just part of how I did business in Connecticut was something that wasn't broadly spread across the industry. Like, I knew a little bit, but I started to see that and started to realize that, like, my real strengths and interests are in the management and the execution. And at the same time, my body's deteriorating and my back is hurting and my knees are giving out. And it just snowballed that realization.
I mean, and how much of it was like, you know, coming from the trade part of it and having empathy for the people that, there's a lot of people in this industry right now that never swung a hammer and never, you know, got a paycheck on a Friday or didn't get a paycheck and got leveraged to do more work to finish off to get that final $5,000. I mean, how much of that goes into how you manage today?
A tremendous amount. Like, so I've been in this 20 years. I've done everything from digging the footings to doing French polish finishes. Like, I've been through all of it. So I can, you know, I may not have done the same thing that they're doing currently, but I've been close enough to enough of it that I can empathize and I can anticipate what they've got to deal with, and I can try and stay ahead of the curve. So yeah, that definitely informs.
It's crazy the way you just put it. It's like you can almost appreciate their technique, but also live it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like when you're looking at it going, all right, this is what he's going to do. All right. It's almost like I was taught that, you know, if you're an apprentice, you want to be that carpenter's third hand, meaning like, hey, whatever they're going to grab for next, that's you. So that's, as for us, I'm speaking for you and me, is that when I shut down my company, it was like, I went to an interview and they're like, why do you think you can do this? And I'm like, well, now I just got to manage the job. I don't have to do the bookkeeping. I don't have to do payroll. I don't have to do insurance. I don't have to do I'm cutting out 6 things to do 1. So how can I not be good at this? You know,
so for me, something that just popped into my head is for me, being an effective manager and delivering at a high level isn't so much having the answers, it's knowing the question to ask. It's, you know, it's being able to be far enough ahead of the ball, know what's coming, to like anticipate that choke point and ask the question before you get to that choke point. You know, I don't need to have the solution for it, but I need to be able to be ahead of the ball enough, and experience gives you that. You know, that's why I'm amazed that there's people that have never had a tool belt on and are able to do the job of a project manager. Like I get it on paper. Like I understand how that happens in our industry and in our business, but it's just, it's like.
But for that process to be natural, you know how long it takes. Like it goes back to the whole lack of skilled trades. It's like to have these managers in place, they would have had to start it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and no one's going to do that. No one.
I'm 20 years in and I'm a second generation. So I have 45 years of handed down knowledge before me.
You're cheating.
I am cheating.
That's like straight up cheating.
And I'm thankful for it.
Like you should have like a different like color, like a license. It should be like yellow.
There's no licenses in Maine, buddy.
Dude, I know. I'm aware. You don't need to tell me. We're all aware.
It's the Wild West up here. It just got building codes.
I think that's the key to being a good project manager, like you said, is like knowing the questions to ask, and
but also how you ask it.
Oh, that's what I was just gonna get at.
Fuck, you
and
always do that. Of course you were.
Sorry.
Sure you were, Nick. You were totally gonna ask
Shouldn't
that.
have interrupted, Johnny.
Yeah.
John, that's a great point.
Let me run with that.
I'm gonna run with that. You mind? You want to take it? I'll take it. You take it. This is great. You got your own beer now. Johnny Hammer time. Now you're buying beer like people buy wine for the label.
9.7.
Oh, you're hammered.
You got me
Good
beat.
stuff.
I just finished a 9.0 and I'm on to an 8.2 now.
Wow. I can't hang. I started with water. That was my. This is my chaser. Quick funny thing is my son, my youngest one, he had like the sniffles, and we gave him some NyQuil, and I was like, he's like, I hate the taste of it, and me being the idiot I am, I'm like, dude, have a chaser, like grab NyQuil,
Teach
pound
him early,
it,
man.
and then my wife's looking at me like, did you really?
serious,
Just? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, dude, have some like apple cider. So he literally, I wish I took a video
NyQuil
of
and
it.
apple cider. That's
That's-
terrible.
That's a terrible
He
chaser.
refused. I don't think it was, but it was whatever it was, and he's just like, yeah. So he has his NyQuil cup, and then he has his chaser.
And now take a rip off of this Vicks Vapor Rub here.
Yeah.
Dude, he killed one, and then he hit the other one. He was like, ugh. It was like I was watching a 9-year-old take a shot. It was. Sorry.
It's like tomorrow he drops his NyQuil in the cup of apple cider.
Yeah.
It's like, Dad, I mixed them. It's like,
Next time he gets sick, I'm doing
yeah,
that.
good job. I forget what
It wasn't about
Management.
Oh,
asking the
How you ask
question.
the
It's
question.
how you
The
ask it.
question.
But it's I think that's where people fail the most, is where it's like the delivery. It's just they go in and they have this sense of entitlement because of their position, and it's like that. I think to
It's
double
your first
on-
mistake.
right. It's like on your point, John. It's like that's the skill that is learned, and being in the trade and being hands on and being in their position at some point, you gain this level of respect where it's like you don't feel like a superior. And I think I know that's where like oftentimes people go wrong. It's like no, I'm in charge here. It's like you're not really in charge. You have a job to make sure it gets done, but you're not necessarily telling the guy how to do it. You're ask the questions and understand, and let them know that, hey, I respect what you're doing. I just want to understand.
The last thing I want to be is that guy that I harassed for my entire career. We used to call him a windshield and a checkbook. That was it. They'd pull up, get out of the truck in their flip-flops, they'd sign the checks. How's everything going? Back in the truck. I don't want to be that guy,
I'm so confused by that approach. It's just and again, it's like the
It's
complacency, but
negligent, yeah.
it just
You're letting yourself
how-
run the job site.
yeah, it's just like how
It's like penalization.
Right. Yeah. Pretty
got a
much
point.
you stopped me in my tracks. there, John.
I watched everyone's reaction.
Yeah.
He's got
Ben
a
got it
point.
first.
Got a
Yeah,
point,
Johnny 5 is coming for you, buddy.
I could do like 20 jobs at a time if I just panelized. Great idea.
And you wouldn't
You
look at
just-
them.
you-
You wouldn't post any of them.
You
They
just
wouldn't
never
exist. You
leave
just
your
make money.
office.
Yeah.
You just be reading emails all day long.
Shop drawings. It's like, is that window in the right spot? Line it up with the tree.
I don't even know.
You
Somebody
wouldn't-
scale
if you're
that for
penalized,
me.
you wouldn't care. You'd be like, whatever, get it up.
Screw it. It's like it looks right at the septic system. Big deal.
I think it's a bit of the empathy part. It's. I think there's a couple approaches I've seen guys do where like they don't know enough about like certain aspects of construction where a lot of guys fall short at framing, and framers really give zero fucks about the guy PMing them unless you know and you can help them and make them more money. So I think the biggest thing about PMs that if you're never done this is to really realize that you can't physically do it without the guys on the job. So you should walk into that situation knowing that you need them more than they need you. And that's key in how you have the conversation. Like we have a super young kid been in the industry a long time, and I didn't take it for granted, and he's going to Wentworth at nights, and like we started framing up the garage, and I was like, hey, at 11:30, you got to kind of start checking to see what they have for stock. Not be like, celebrate, oh, stock's here. It's here. It got here. It's like, is it right? Is it the right quantity, right height, right thickness? All this stuff that you have to do that it's on you. And I remember asking him, like, hey, did you order more sheathing? He goes, oh, no, Jack didn't give me a list. I'm like,
how many times did you ask him for the list?
Like, no, it's not his fucking job to make a list. His
job
is
but if it was, like, have you been on him? Like, yeah.
But more importantly, so Ben, I'm with you there, but those craftsmen that are framing that house, that are putting on these curves, that are putting on the roof, that are cutting these crazy things, it's not their job to do the stock list. It's your job to figure out if they burn through this many studs, and this was the takeoff that someone did at Riverhead, that is it enough? That's always your question, is to make sure that you're feeding that machine that they are.
Then you should throw him on a 12 pitch on a Friday afternoon and have him run 3 sheets short.
Exactly. That's my point. Is it? But it's like checking. It's like also knowing that, hey, Riverhead needs to know by 3:00. If you wait till 4 and lazy, you take a lunch and then you do whatever, and then you go see Jack and go, hey, how you looking on stock? Like strapping. Let's just put strapping out there. It's like, all right, they haven't strapped the garage yet. There's 2 bundles left. Guess what? I can do the math even at entry level. That maybe I should call it in because tomorrow, guess what? They're not going to have it or no. Yeah.
Or you know what? Maybe it's 245. I don't know exactly how many I need, but I'm going to call an order. I'm going to order 15, and if it's too many, I'll send them back. And if it's not enough, at least it's better than nothing.
It's like anybody been asked to do a stock list. You're like, dude, I'm in the middle of some shit. Like, give me a break. I'm framing a roof. I don't want to know how many strapping I need. So it's like it's going, hey, you have 3 bundles. You cool with this? Or having that talk when they're at lunch, like after they're done with lunch, not when they're in the middle of it, when they're starting to put their belts back on and go, hey, how you looking? Like, you need this because as a PM, first and foremost, you need to get production done. I get it. But you need to feed those guys because you can make or break if they make money on these projects. Whether it's framing, roofing, whatever it is. Like, you know how many times we get a roof delivery and there's missing drip edge? Like, guess what? Can't start. Like, but it's our job to know that, not for the roofer to show up and go, hey, you're missing drip edge.
It's also not a PM. Thing, like so I got this from my dad. It's like, I'm the guy that shows up with a dozen donuts and a box of Joe. It's like little things like that. Like that $17 or whatever that I just spent goes a long way to drive, camaraderie. It's keeping the clean job site. It's all of that stuff. And you don't know it unless somebody's taught you or you've learned it the hard way because you've tripped over piles of shit.
But how much of it is... So, Nick, we've talked about this, and I actually had this on my mind the other day, is like when John didn't sweep up. See, I just went. When John didn't, we got the sod in. It was like, oh, we got the sod in. It's great. Let's celebrate the sod. But yet every Mercedes that's driving down the street is driving through dirt and rocks and everything else. And it's like, yeah, we can celebrate that thing, and I don't want to take that celebration away from him. But at the same time, so for instance, I got a guy and he vapes, okay? And I'm not a fan, but I also don't want to be like, I've been told from past employers, like, change your ringer. I don't like listening to that. Or like, you shouldn't coach this. Or being told not to do something is so much different than, like, I feel like, so Nick, I thought about it a lot where you were just like, you should just call the guy and be like, you got to come back and sweep this up. I'm like, I have to do a better job of influencing that person to, like, if no one else in the company vapes, like maybe I just need to do a better job of presenting that, this is what we run. Maybe he needs to look up to me in a different light that maybe I don't need to vape. He doesn't vape, blah, blah. So my point is like, at what point are you managing it and what point are you setting an example? Where do you kind of
do you think getting lines? T-shirts made that have a vape with the big line through it is too much?
I got it. I could put stickers on the cars.
No, I don't know. I feel like vaping's better than smoking, right?
Agreed.
But
it's still, even if you smoked, what would I wouldn't say, hey, I wouldn't want to be like, hey, there's no smoking on the job site.
I would. I would tell people if they want to smoke,
there's no smoking on the job, but on the job site, I'm not saying Home Depot at the front entry, the employees sit there with the aprons on, smoking, ripping butts, like at the door. Like, bro, take it around the corner.
I would definitely tell I don't want people smoking, even if they're like smoking and then walking into the job because they smell like smoke. Anywhere, it's like if you want to smoke, you can go ride around in your car and smoke.
Yeah,
Nobody's smoking here. The customers don't smoke. I think that is an extreme example, and I think that in recent years, I feel like not a lot of people smoke either. I think it used to be pretty common that smoking on the job site was just a thing, and it's just not anymore. And I feel like it's kind of unacceptable. I don't know, vaping, I feel like is just more of an image than anything else. Or if you like smelling like grape fake smoke.
I asked him if it was strawberry today. I was like, yo, is that
weird.
strawberry?
It's tutti
What are you rocking
frutti.
right now?
It's like, how do you go from smoking to like inhaling tutti frutti vapor? I don't get it.
But my question was,
Nicotine's a bitch.
Yeah.
yeah. But I guess my question is, how is there a way to influence that instead of it being a policy?
Well, I mean, I think that the few times I've only dealt with that, like smoking specifically, a handful of times, and I'm like, hey, listen, man,
because you don't hire anybody over 10 years old. Like no one is even.
Yeah,
Can't even buy 'em.
They can't even buy like.
But it's like when I've just said, I'm like, listen, I don't mind if you smoke, but you can't smoke on our job site. Like, you want to smoke, you can go stand on the sidewalk, whatever. Like, but it's not there. It's just not allowed on the job site. It's just, that's our rule. But it's, yeah, I agree. I think influencing is certainly the right approach. Like, that doesn't go away. And to clarify, like, I don't necessarily think you should have called John and said, hey, you got to come back here and sweep. But I think more specifically, I was like, you faked getting in your truck so he would drive off. Where it's like, instead, if you just hopped out there and started sweeping, he'd be like, oh, all right, I'll start. I'll help.
So what happened? What, you get a sod delivery and there was dirt all over the road and the PM left without cleaning up?
We installed the sod and it was all great. And then I swung by at the end of the day just because that's when I made my rounds. And everyone's leaving. And I'm like, I don't want to stop anybody from leaving. And I'm like, do your thing. I honestly, I really want to, I'd rather have...
But it was a test. Like
I want to have an honest reaction to what they're doing. Meaning, if he thinks it's okay to leave, I don't want to influence that yet. You get me? I want him to show up the next day and go.
Was that an honest reaction?
But yeah, I mean, he left. I knew that he left.
I mean, 100%. your reaction.
So what did you do the next day when you saw him?
No, I swept it up, and then I guess in my world is I want him to ask Joey the landscaper, go, hey, did you clean the street? And he goes, no. Who was it? He gets to the bottom of it and go, guess what? It was the boss.
Right.
Or when you get there the next day, you're like, sure is clean today, isn't it?
Passive aggressive.
Yeah, you could definitely go that route, but I would have straight out gone to the dude and been like, hey, listen, good job, but at the end of something like that, you got to make sure that the street's cleaned. I went ahead and swept it up. No big deal, but next time, let's make sure we're keeping it clean.
Yeah, I mean,
like managing crew is like such, dude, like building a house and cutting a screwed up off-pitch roof is a nightmare, but dealing with people is so much more difficult than any of that.
Yeah. I get it.
Like,
and we
would you say it
dug
to your
into
brother or
this.
sister?
What's
like,
that?
Would you say it that way to your brother or sister? Or would they just laugh it off and slap you in the face? Like, hey, you should come back and do this right now. I guess I don't
think that would have been, but I guess my point, you said it, so I'm trying to get the point out is like you said I wanted to have an honest reaction, but your reaction was that I'm going to go in my truck pretending I'm going to leave, so he leaves, and then I'm going to get out of my truck and then sweep
I didn't want to influence his reaction.
But
now I know. Now I know it's something that has to get done.
I know, but to back up, like you started this by saying, I want to influence him. I don't want to tell him.
That's the flip side. That's the flip side. No, the flip side is I wanted to make sure that this is 100% what he's going to do. Like when you do the whole, I was just going to say that. No. Okay, that's me getting out of my truck and sweeping right away. And he goes, I was going to do that too. I was just pulling my truck over, hit a puck real quick. Like, no. Like, okay.
I wanted to warm up the tires a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to sweep this first, so I was going to park the car over there.
But doesn't that result in isn't that a win-win?
Mm-hmm. No, but now I know how I have to manage him going forward.
Understood.
Yeah, and it totally depends on the personality of the person you're managing, because somebody might need or retain it better if you had gotten out of your truck and been like, hey, let's sweep this up right now. And then somebody might retain it better
was
if you
Friday,
come to
6 o'clock. You know, like it's this.
Did he listen to that podcast?
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm assuming.
So you guys never talked about it?
We did.
Oh.
We talked about it afterwards.
What was the conversation?
I can't remember. I would love to be honest with you. And what's that?
I said he quit.
No. I mean, no,
he's like, I was going to come back, but I came back and you already swept it. I went to get a coffee.
now that's the thing is like,
I already to get a coffee. It was 6 o'clock on a Friday, dude.
I needed a boost.
I just, and again, I might be totally wrong here, like I am with obviously paneling. Is that
you're not wrong?
I like to know this way about it. So maybe I need to gauge that it's been a long week, and like I said in previous podcasts, that maybe it's not his role to do that.
Sure.
And obviously it's not mine, but it's my job to find out whose role that is.
Right.
So is it me telling him so that way he knows what's going on so he tells the landscaper, or is it me getting a superintendent and him being able to focus on the 1,000-foot stuff while I focus on 30 and someone's on the ground?
I'd put this much thought into it if it happens another time. Otherwise, it's just the touch that you put on that job as the business owner to make sure that it's handled the way you like to see it handled.
Right.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I obviously overthink everything. Clearly, we've established that. So,
but I don't like John. Like, I don't think you're wrong, and I think like you said, you were trying to gauge their reaction, and again, going back to like the way being successful project manager, it's the delivery, and I
would suggest leaders. How do we successfully lead?
Right. And it's, for example, it's like recently, I've learned about myself that when I'm on site and it's like when something's not perfect and I'm like, I want to get in it with the guys and be like, all right, like, hey, let's take this out and redo it. Like in my mind, it's not that they did a bad job or that they did a crap job. And I'm not realizing is my delivery is off. So when I leave, these guys are like, what the hell? Like, I spent 8 hours doing that, and he's having me redo it.
Like, dude, why didn't you show up 2 hours ago, bro?
Right, and that's a fair point, and I've sat down with...
That's part about being a manager is knowing when to show up.
Agreed. Or it's like, it's just redoing it because, like, hey, we got a better idea, or the client changed their mind. It's like getting that, figuring out how to deliver that message without, making it sound like that they've screwed up. That's where, like, for me, like, this is something very much right now that I'm realizing that.
I wonder if that's what it sounds like on the podcast.
What?
When people listen, when you describe it, where I come in and I finicky do this and that. I wonder how it's perceived
on site.
Just on the podcast, I haven't listened to it. I wonder from being on the other side of it. Would it come in as like, oh, this is my role? I come in and just create a muck, like
puff my chest out and make demands.
Like it sounds really cool and eccentric and all that, but like being the receiver of it is like, dude.
Well, that's
like,
and that's where it's like I want.
If you were so good at it, you'd show up a day ahead of time and go, "This is what my expectations are for this." Bang this out. Here's a quick sketch. You need detail on that. I'll get the architect.
That's a fair point, and it's more. It's not even about. It's oftentimes about the way something's. It depends, right? Like it might just be the way like the outcome came out. Like maybe it's exactly how it was drawn, but I just don't like it.
Should you have modeled it?
There's a difference.
Analyzed it.
There's a difference between not liking the design of something and not liking the execution of something.
True. Correct. And
so if the design is bugging you, and it's this either way, it's hard to relate to the person that actually did the work because there's so much emotion involved in it. It takes a certain type of craftsman to be able to.
Whether it's design or execution, it hurts the same way for them because it's
design's a little easier to accept.
Sure.
Well, the hardest thing is to execute a design that you don't like. Like if you ever done Spanish style, it's like I'll execute it, but
get over that. Like if I only built stuff that I liked the looks of, forget it.
But how much easier is it? Like I've done it, but it's like I get excited for like clients I meet now that have like the same design kind of criteria that I have, like the same, like how I'd build my own personal house. But I love digging into the other stuff that challenges me. But like I remember I did a Spanish house And I'm just like, at the end of the day, it's like, I hated the fact that I keep saying, I don't get it.
Right.
I don't see it. Like, I remember we did 127 individual tiles, and we put them all out and we tagged them all. So it was paint by numbers. It was unbelievably executed, but still, it's like, I won't take a picture of that one. So like, you know, like, so how do you? I think that's a great. I think it's cool to do when it really puts everything in perspective when you're executing a design that you're not 100% behind, whether it's something that's not your style or whatever, but you still have to execute to a high level, like Ben, you're saying. But it's like, how do you manage that? How do you comprehend that? How do you deliver that when it's not so like out of your back pocket what your norm is?
So I kind of like building stuff that's not my niche or not my flavor or my personal style, because it forces me to, you know, I still have to execute at a high level. And really,
so
for me,
what you're saying is nothing's your style. What are you, a log cabin? What is it?
No. It's
The beard. Sorry, you led
weird.
me down that
It's
road.
weird, yeah. We could go anywhere from like weird cubist, brutalist concrete structures to like old painted Lady Victorians. I don't know. It depends on the day of the week.
Wow.
But so for me, maybe it's just that I don't like anything I build, or it's just like I don't have an emotional attachment to it. And don't take that the wrong way in me saying that. It comes down to communication, totally, because regardless if I like it or not, it all has to do with me understanding what the design intent is and what the client's goals are for it. So whether I like it or not, like I try not to, I don't know, this sounds so pompous to say, but I don't like a lot of what I build because it's not what I would build for myself. So I don't get emotionally invested into the design. I've removed emotion out of the equation for me.
But is it
You're
hard?
clearly very like, you like to be emotionally invested in something that you like the look of, and it's on the trend that you like. For me, it's all just about, I don't know, it's cut and dry. It's execution.
Well, I guess
breaking it down into what
is it
goals
easy
I
for
have
you
to
to
hit.
see? Like when stuff that comes across my desk, like I got an inspirational Pinterest today from a new client, and I was like, oh man, I could see it all. Like I could see the finish line. I always say about like, as a PM, you should be able to get blindfolded, put into a new project, and then take the blindfold off, and the next minute understand what the next 5 things you have to order, who are the next 3 people you have to call, and what the next questions you have to ask.
I usually do pretty good on visualizing stuff, except for paint colors. Like I usually like, and maybe that's just because I like black out by that point in the decision-making process. I'm like, whatever, the paint colors are.
Just say you're colorblind.
Yeah, I know, right? Seriously.
They can't check you.
Seriously, I've had the clients that do like the 13 shades of white and like, which one should I choose? And I'm like, I'd go with the decorator.
Client called me out.
That's clearly going to help with the complexion of the marble. I don't know.
Client called me out and got me the colorblind glasses.
Nice.
There's glasses for that?
Yeah. I mean, why would I wear them when I know? Now I know. It's like being blind. No, it's not like being blind. It's like I lived with this for 41 years. Now I'm going to put glasses on and go, oh, that's what it really looks like? Let me take them off. And now I relate to like, oh. Yeah, they have glasses.
I didn't know.
Yeah, that I'm like,
Are they expensive?
I didn't Google it.
Oh.
I'm sure.
What did you say when they got them for you? Thank you.
Yeah. And they said,
try
try them
them
on.
on?
Everyone cries. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Everyone cries. It's not like the
he sees
deaf
green
kid
for
who
the first
gets,
time,
like,
he's
the
like, and he just starts
implants.
tearing up.
For the record, I was at that set of lights. We talked about this before. There's a set of lights that for some reason, the way the colors are, I stop at the green light almost every time. So today, I stop at it, look at my phone, and I go, I should check to see if it really is green or red. And I look up at it, I'm like, it's green. I'm like,
Put the glasses
again.
on.
No, like every time there's certain lights where, whatever, sidetrack.
You might be able to stop filling your ceiling if you put them on.
Dude, no, that's has nothing to do with colorblind. It's just shading. I see shading super well.
Have you been colorblind your whole life? Is that a dumb question?
My uncle's got it. That's all I can tell. I don't know my dad, so I don't know how how that shakes out. But yeah, my uncle has it, and that's why I was like, he's colorblind, and then he's also an alcoholic. So I'm like, I'm not drinking. Like, it's how it works.
Just a 9.7 for the night. No big deal.
And I didn't drink till I was a junior in college.
Yeah, but at least you taught your son what a chaser is.
I know. I regret that.
Setting them up.
And he's the one that he'll. Yeah.
He's like, Dad, watch this. It's a NyQuil car bomb.
Or he's just robo tripping tomorrow.
He's doing like fruit punch keg stands in the living room.
Hey, it got him to take the NyQuil, bros.
NyQuil
Okay.
bong.
All right. Mission accomplished.
All right, bro.
Parenting success.
Do
Oh,
one
man.
more.
All right, I've got a hot button one.
Ooh.
Dew point.
Whoa.
Dew point.
Oh, we
Oh,
can't. No,
God.
Christine told us not to talk about that.
Yeah, you
She
should.
said it doesn't matter.
You really shouldn't worry about it. That's really all I've got to tell you.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
And try-
are you really gonna go down a rabbit hole?
No, I just had to mess with you guys a little bit because I've heard this one before. In all honesty, so the two things I can add about that is people worry about it too much, and people worry about vapor barriers a little too much. If I can offer one piece of advice, is just try and build vapor open.
Mm-hmm.
Try and have your wall be able to breathe in both directions, ideally.
Dude, there's a house in Natick right now.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's the way that they build houses back in the day. Obviously, integrating different details at this point, but
You just kiln dried them every winter.
yeah.
There's a house in Natick right now that they put on Tyvek. It's kind of right in the center of town. And I drove by it the other day, and I was shocked. They graced the entire thing, like the sidewalls, and I'm like, I drove up to it, and I was like, I'll take a picture of it tomorrow. All the sides of it, everything's graced. It's really well done, grace with no wrinkles. Like that's impressive. But I'm just
I had a
like,
blowtorch
Did
out
you
there.
imagine?
I know a builder out in the Hamptons that I've seen him do that. I think he stopped doing it, but it was gracing the entire building and then spray foaming, closed cell spray foaming the whole thing. And I'm like, oh God. Just
Scary.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing
Heaven
is,
forbid it catches fire. Good God.
Oh my God.
you're
Yeah.
fucked either way.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing
Plume.
about dew point is like it's just knowledge.
Yeah.
It's understanding. I think people are afraid of it because they just don't know enough about it. You know, it's just like, oh well, I should be scared of it. I don't know, and I think that's what gets people in trouble.
Yeah. It's the not knowing enough. It's really, there's not much you need to worry about. Like, to give a little perspective, the wall system that I'm building with the company I'm at right now, we build double stud 12-inch thick walls. And like, if you want to get into the modeling of like a worst case scenario for condensation, it's that wall system, but we actively monitor them and there's no issues with them. So
So how are you actively monitoring?
Yeah.
so I bury what are called OmniSense. Sorry, I'm like, my beer's catching up with me. They're called OmniSense monitors. If you pay attention to FHB, there's an article coming out in the next month or two. They're a little tiny sensor that gets buried into the walls, has two screws that goes into a piece of framing material. It reads the wood moisture content through those two screws, just like a pin type moisture meter does, reads relative humidity and temperature. So we get to watch the wood moisture content in the wall, the humidity.
So if that goes the wrong direction, what kind of lawsuit is that? Like, it's almost like for people listening, it's like, all right, I don't want to know how it changes because then I'm not liable for it. But if you put that sensor in, it's just like the FooBot we talked about.
We do that too. So now we did FooBots on a couple of projects, and now we use OmniSense CO2
So you need to be
monitors.
pretty confident with what that system's going to do
in
order to put the sensor in.
Yeah.
Or you just know how much you have to hide.
For me, it's due diligence. You know, it's a combination of due diligence to delivering a good project or a good delivered product. And it's also education for me because now I can pull these up and I can watch what they're doing year to year and seeing how they really perform. It's about $500-600 investment per project to do it.
What's your to dig into it, because I think we asked Christine and a few other people, what's your ideal wall assembly?
My ideal wall assembly would probably be a
Panelized?
Well, almost. Yeah, no, almost.
Slip it in.
If budget was no issue, I'd probably go with the panelized CLT wall assembly with like a shit ton of wood fiber on the outside of it.
What's CL2?
Wood fiber?
CL?
Yeah.
What?
CLT, cross-laminated timber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the
CLTs.
Gutex wood fiber
With
insulation?
Gutex or Styco
Gutex.
on the outside of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It
I feel
all
like
just
that's-
went over my head.
Right?
The wood fiber, they just opened a plant in Maine or Vermont, right?
It's in Maine. It's just north of us. It's Ecologics running it. Go Logic.
Yeah.
It's next year they'll be coming online with blown fiber for replacement for cellulose. Then they'll have bats, and then they'll have rigid.
What about hemp?
What about it?
When are we going to start using it?
When we can grow enough of it to make it, feasible to actually be a fiber source.
That's a good answer.
Right?
I don't know how much hemp that we're growing.
I did reach out to the hemp guy that was on. What was it? Matt's?
Temperature?
Temperature.
I'm looking it up.
Is that really what it's called?
Yeah.
It is.
They're doing that wacky Japanese timber frame down there in Austin.
Yeah. I reached out to him to try and get him on.
That's so I'm all for like hempcrete. The thing is like when you get into a cold climate, the walls have to be so thick.
Yeah.
It's just insane. Like we're talking like a 20-inch thick wall to get some level of performance.
As far as the Gutex, like, is that recycled wood or is that, grown for it?
Yeah, it's mostly byproducts. So it comes from byproducts of the lumber industry in Germany. As well as some obviously pulp material. So trees that are too small for commercial harvest or they're the brush off puts from it.
I gotcha.
So Maine's really primed for it because there was a huge, paper making industry up here, pulp industry up here that fell flat on its face and went to China.
Yeah, that's what they took over a paper factory, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We're the most forested state in the country, like per capita or per acre or whatever it is.
Wow.
So it's like the infrastructure's here for it. So hopefully it catches on.
Yeah, it's interesting and you're seeing it to be used a lot more, and like people are pushing it. I think obviously because it's now available in the U.S., but it'll be interesting to see how quickly it catches up. And I think I alluded to it earlier. That's the whole nother part of this is that product development is happening so quickly, where it's like everyone wants to be using the next best thing. You talked about Intello, and now it's like Sega, and it's like you went. It was Zip, and then it was Blueskin, and then now it's Sega, and it's like are they better? Is it the same? Does it matter? What's the price point? Like, it's just there's so many products and it's developing so quickly, and that makes the education side of it even more difficult and more daunting, to be completely frank.
This isn't my father's industry. Like the amount of information that we have to parse through on a daily basis or on a yearly basis to execute projects, and let alone try and stay ahead of the curve of the industry.
I think
you guys know it's mind numbing.
And then everything changes so quickly that something, people are getting into trouble because they're using things together and then finding out very soon thereafter that they don't mesh well or they don't play well. And it's like, I feel like back in the day we were able to observe the life cycle of products and kind of see how they aged correctly, and now things are moving so quickly and so technologically based. Like on paper it all checks out, but in the real world, what's that look like? Which is just tough. It's like as soon as you think that you have your head wrapped around it, there's another curveball or something.
Yeah, it's
else
also
we
have to put so much faith in these manufacturers that they are actually doing the research and that it is all checking out, because with some products, you're putting a lot of investment into that thing working, and if they're overselling a product, it could be catastrophic to a small business.
True. I feel like it's every product. That's interior, exterior, insulation. I mean, it's just everything, and there's so many options out there, and it's I don't know, it's tough. It's tough to stay on top of it, no matter what aspect of the business you're in. I feel like we don't make enough money.
We don't, which I think that's going to be the only thing that solves the skilled trades gap. I almost another pitchfork and torches moment. Almost got myself chased out of a round table at the remodeling show 5-6 years ago. Because I said the only thing that's going to cure this labor shortage is people leaving the industry or not filling these positions, that's going to push those of us in the industry. It's going to push our income up because we're going to be in demand. And then kids and other people outside of the industry are going to see that we're making good livings. And that's going to be what draws them in. You know, I think we can have this whole like big pipe dream that we're going to have these like educational outreach things and these media blitzes and all this stuff. I don't think I think it's got to come down to the dollar. It's got to come down to the economy driving people into it.
I don't know. I think I'm on the fence. I think
we should have that doesn't mean we shouldn't have the educational outreach and we shouldn't have the media presence trying to drive people to it. But
I'm with you, but like I had some kid call me the other day and he's like, yeah, I want to go around and talk to all these schools about getting kids in the trades. And I'm like, I'm with you. I want to do the same thing. I absolutely want to do it. So we influence all these kids to get in the trades. Then who's teaching them?
Right.
Like, especially in the U.S., it's not like all these other areas that have this institution where you get, so many hours.
A guild system.
Yeah. It's like, so then you inspire this area of people to get in the trades. And guess what? There's no one there that is going to be the same type of person, energy, and enthusiastic about what you are. And I can't tell you how many times I went to a job site and it was like, the guy was an absolute shithead. Like, just like didn't give a shit about anything. It was like, get it. Like Tyler always says, like, if you were told to just get it done, what would you try to accomplish? The minimum. Like, it wouldn't be about anything. So it's, yeah, we can influence and we talked about going around and going to all these schools and getting people jazzed about being carpenters or builders. It's like, but where do they learn this?
Yeah.
It's going to be sort of.
The other side of the coin, and it's a sad reality, is like, so we're going to attract them into the trades. What are we going to offer them for a livelihood? Like, our industry is so beaten down as far as what we can provide for wages and benefits. Obviously, like all of us on this right here are in, kind of niche markets where we have higher level projects and we can offer good benefits and good compensation, but that's not the normal across the industry. So like, we're going to attract all these kids in and then we're going to give them the same thing that they're going to get at Starbucks, but they're not going to have benefits. Like, I don't know. It's a big hurdle to cross.
Yeah. I don't think that our economy or our society is willing to bear the overhead of larger construction companies doing residential work and paying for that overhead. At this point, they just don't see enough value.
Eventually,
in the work
they're going to be
what they're getting done to their home.
Yeah, eventually, I think they're going to get forced into it, though. I think it's just culturally going to happen.
But I think on the flip side, I think there's a lot of business owners that want to take advantage of their employees.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that they want to make a ton of money.
But so why do they want to do that though? It's like, for the most part, granted, there are the greedy people out there in the industry, the greedy capitalists that want to just like amass as much wealth. But usually it's because that business owner is being so beaten down by having to have 3 competitive bids against lowballers that he himself is just struggling to grab and hold on to whatever he can to keep the ship afloat.
I think a lot of it is that people think it's feast or famine. So when you have the ability to feast, then fuck it, I'm feasting because I've played the game the right way and it doesn't work. And then a lot of people do that. So I think we need to also paint that picture for young people coming into the trades. Is that you're young? I've said it from day one. Is that as soon as the opportunity doesn't benefit you as well, as the employer, then you need to get out of there, because there's so many times where I've been so many places and I've done it the long way, where it's like, I'm just going to keep working. I'm going to work harder, and all I did was make the first 3 people I worked for.
Then a year later, you're just kicking yourself in the ass. Go, why did I waste all that time?
I built each one of them a house. Yeah. And it's like, all right, where's my house? And it's like, no, we're actually not going to do bonuses this year. Sweet. That's cool. I get it. And then you move on, but it's, and the answer may not be going on your own. Like Ben, it's some people we talk to, like the International Builder Show or whatever. It's like, I'm going to go off on my own. I've been a laborer for a year. It's like, slow down.
We had the next one under me. Kid's got 6 years experience. He's like 26, 27 years old. He's going out on his own. And I'm just like, good luck, bro.
But like going out on your own now?
Like, and now is the he's like, in all right,
you'll be fine.
He's in it still. Yeah, it was still good luck. But like, how sad is it that like that's what our industry, like, Rob Yeager and I were having this conversation a few months ago. Like, how sad is it that that's the bar, the elevated bar that you like get to. Like employers can't offer enough compensation or enough reason to stick with a business and help the business grow for everybody's betterment. It's like you grow to a point where you've got the skills to go start your own business. Like I don't know. I feel like I've kind of gained more insight on this being an employee for the company I'm with and looking at it going forward. But I'd like to be part of a business that I can help grow and grow the whole thing for everybody. You know, the rising tide lifts all boats, because, you know, together we can accomplish so much more than if I have to go out on my own again and start a crew again and, you know, chase subs again, this, that, and the other thing.
It's kind of fun.
Like I said, I don't know. It all comes down to
I've
money.
played that game.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, it really does.
It's so true that it all comes down to the number, and it comes down to the dollar, and it comes down to what people are willing to pay. And the problem is that, you know, our industry is so price driven that it's so hard to get away from that, because everyone can start a company up and everyone can lower their price and everyone can undercut you. And it doesn't matter. The product almost is irrelevant. It's so much more until you get in, you know, a lot of us are positioning ourselves to a market where we're getting away from that, but that's not the bulk of what our industry is. The bulk of our industry is who can do it for the least amount, and
commodity
it's not,
construction.
It's not
who can do it for the least
product.
amount and then not get sued.
But who
Correct.
can make it look the prettiest is also a part of it, where there's a lot of people with inexperience that can publicize it the right way and brand it, that it promotes a certain thing, and it's really tough to see through that.
It's ridiculous. Like the Instagram thing, like I love Instagram for the community. Like obviously you guys are all in it, you know, like the community is incredible. But like as I get to know some of these people that are, you know, influencers, and then I find out like inside stories about like working with them and stuff like that, it's like, oh, it's all marketing. There's like, well, it's not all marketing, but there's so many people that clearly are good at portraying that image
100%.
of knowledge and skill. And then you find out the inside and you're like, oh.
Are you talking directly to me?
I feel like that's like 98%.
I think we all know who
of
we're
Instagram.
talking
I feel like
about.
it's like 98% of Instagram, though. I mean, I feel like that's 98% of business, to be honest.
And I'm one of those wacky people. Like I post on Instagram sporadically, and it's really because like Mike Girton gave me shit a couple of years ago about not posting, because it's
Really?
like dude, because like
Of all the people, he's
getting
shots
on
fired
you?
from Girton.
yeah, like the 67-year-old dude is like, you got to step
Sending
your
you
game up,
DMs.
kid. Yeah. But I don't post
He's
enough
roofing
because
a roof from a bottom up right now and going, why aren't you posting?
no, top down, dude. Top down. Yeah.
I can't even say it
He's
wrong.
like, hold on, I'm down at the bottom of this well. Let me get service before I send you.
I sent you that one.
Girton's the man.
He's out of his mind.
Yeah,
He's
pretty
awesome.
crazy.
We need to have him back on.
Yeah.
It's live again.
So like, I don't know if we didn't touch on any of this. So like some of the other stuff that I do is like I teach at JLC Live. That's like a gig that I've got going on. I teach the
I thought you just had like
show.
a beard club at JLC.
Yeah,
Is that what it was?
Beard club for builders, high performance beards.
How are you not doing that?
It's very
for real?
well insulated.
Like,
Where's the dew point of your beard?
Chinsulation.
Yeah. What's the dew point? Where is it in that beard? Give us a
It depends on the temperature outside. Yeah.
depends on where he is. Maine.
When it's like
or-
like 20 degrees, it's all like right here. It just turns to icicles. No, but like, so yeah, I've been doing like the JLC stuff, the remodeling show, IBS, Fine Home Building Summit, whatever. I've gotten to know.
Do you
those
wear your
guys.
belt on the plane to IBS, or does it you pack it?
No. I've got like a Pelican case that.
You should just rock it, like just in the airplane.
Have you been through TSA recently?
just give it a shot.
I don't think any of us have.
I know. Yeah, no, you're right.
No,
Not
are they
since
open?
Yeah, not since January. Shoot. But I guess what I was getting at is like, so like Girton gave me hell about it. I'm like the type of person, like I look at my work and like, I know I do good work, but like, I'm not emotionally invested enough to be like, this is amazing. Let me pump this on Instagram. Like that's, you know, I've got 20 years in this business, and I've got like no pictures of what I've done. That's just,
And that's a shame. Okay,
it really is. It really is. It absolutely is.
If this is live, I'd slap that beard right off your face.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like, if
Snap.
there's a big regret that I could go back, 20 years and be photographing everything.
Because
It's just like,
that
it's
knowledge
just
gets
work.
to stay there. You may
It's just-
I think was it Jessie? I forget her last name, but she was a car enthusiast and all that stuff, and she passed away trying to do the fastest person on earth.
Oh yeah.
But like, it's kind of crazy that you can go back on her page, and her personality and her stuff is still living.
Yeah.
So like some of the work, like I know Paulie from Wood Theory. Every time I see him, I'm like, bro, how is this between you, me, and your apprentice? Like, and that's it. And then I have to explain it to the client what's happening. It shouldn't be between the four of us. What you're doing, it's special, even though what you take for granted is what you do. But it's like that could influence so many more people to either try it differently or just catch the fever. You know what I'm saying? Like, just get into it. And it doesn't take a lot. And I'm not saying do it every day or 3 times a day.
No, it doesn't. And that's like, honestly, like I went from like posting like once every couple of months, like, every couple of weeks now I get something out. It depends on where I'm at phase wise. I'm hoping with this
you're just
new
messing
job,
with the algorithm.
Yeah, whatever. That's like Greek to me, the algorithm.
I think Gerton's screwing up the algorithm.
Yeah, right.
Oh God. It's the carrot in his tool pouch that's doing it.
I have no idea what that means, but I'm just
Yeah.
gonna leave. I'm gonna leave that
Just
be.
leave it right there.
He posted something the other day about going out on trash day with his bicycle and a trailer hooked up to it so he could drive at low speeds and get good
And
like
cruise
junk.
the goodies.
Dude.
Yeah.
Imagine
Jealous.
what music did he listen to?
Leader of the pack.
My God.
That or like Bowie.
It's probably like some weird like Mongolian throat singers or something.
Yeah. Playing the didgeridoo.
He's amazing.
Some Aborigines.
He's definitely gonna be like, "Hey, I listened to 140."
Yeah, I'm screwed next time I see him.
Everyone's gonna hit him up. It's gonna be like Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ben-
man. Too
Ben,
funny.
appreciate you being on, man. This is awesome.
It's my pleasure.
I know we went back and forth, but glad we got it scheduled. And this, good luck with the move to. When is it?
Hey,
Is it
thanks.
Connecticut?
First week of December. I think I'll be officially like showing up on a job site second week or something like that.
That's awesome. Right
Awesome.
before
Right in time
Christmas
for
break.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah.
Yep. December 7th.
Didn't know that.
1941.
Little fun fact.
You guys didn't know.
Everyone's
Oh,
in
I
the
knew
car
it
right
was
now
around
going,
there.
totally, yeah.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. I knew it was somewhere around. I knew it was somewhere around there. My birthday is December 3rd, and it's always like in the blur of after birthday. I'm like, oh, Pearl Harbor.
Tyler's gonna get DMs on December 7th. Hey, happy Pearl Harbor Day, man.
Yeah, man.
He's gonna
I'll take
post something on it.
I'll take it. We had.
This is good.
I feel like we had a middle school teacher that made us memorize that date. See, school. I don't know why.
That's your takeaway.
Dude,
Thank
it's
God.
still stuck there. At that point, it's what 15, 16 years of education. I remember Pearl Harbor Day. It's worth
It's
it.
useful.
It's worth
Totally
it.
useful.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it was my
Good luck
pleasure,
with the
Tyler.
move.
Thanks.
Is Western Connecticut not? I guess it's not too cold where you are. Cold. You guys get a lot of snow in Portland.
It's no different. Everybody's like, you're moving to Maine. It's crazy up there. It's no different. Like, you guys get the same thing in Boston areas we get down here. Jersey, maybe a little easier.
Maybe.
It's crazy. We're not talking about the weather.
Yeah.
I went up there to put a dock in the water, and people were like, don't go near a store because they'll key your car. It was like months ago during COVID
Yeah.
in Maine. Like, certain areas, you can't go near it. My buddy just hit me up. He's like, we're taking the dock out of the water this weekend. I'm like, I don't know if I can get up there.
Got a rental? No, there was one of the islands. They the Islanders legit cut down trees to block the driveway of like some people from New Jersey who were up and on the island.
Wow.
Animals. I love it.
Yeah. It's a different world out there.
I don't hate it.
No.
It's a great spot.
Well, for those that don't follow you, where can people find you?
Ben Bogie on Instagram.
You said
That-
you're doing something at the summit.
Yeah, so I'm presenting on double stud walls at the summit.
So it's a
this
fine
year.
home building summit.
Yeah,
for those.
Fine Home Building Summit next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So yeah, if you guys
I'm
are
also-
listening to this is tomorrow. It's this week.
Yeah.
So it's all digital. I said digital last time, right? Virtual. It's a virtual
Virtual.
event.
I know that they just emailed. That's going to be too late. When is it? This week?
It'll be this week. Yeah.
Yeah, 26. So you can catch me Tuesday. I have a 10-minute breakout session on monitoring buildings. And then at 5:30, I have an hour and a half presentation on building double stud walls.
Yeah, if you guys want to pass to it, hit us up on our Instagram page.
Dude, this is going to be too late.
Period. No, it's not. It's the rest of the week.
Oh, it's all next week?
It's Monday. It's
Yeah.
Monday.
If you're listening to this now is the time now.
Yeah.
Jump on it.
Yeah.
Shoot us
I
a
know they
message
just-
on
they-
Instagram, and we'll shoot you a pass to get into it.
Yeah, I gotta post something because I think they emailed me today as well that they have
Yeah.
a pass.
Same here. You can reach out to me as well, and I'll hook it up.
Cool.
Sweet.
Boom.
right,
And some
Ben.
beard oil.
Be well, man.
That's pneumatic tool oil. That's all I use.
That's all you
That
need.
stuff stinks.
A little bit for the gun, a little bit for me.
How many drops?
Oh, no, it's like
Like
a palm full, like a
like
palm
7.
full. Like you got to
Oh,
get
that's
in
a
there.
lot.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still on the same Pazload
It's
container
gotta be
of oil
dri- it's
since
gotta
when
be
I went into
dripping.
business.
It's gonna be shooting out of the airports every time I hit something.
All right, man. Well, thanks again.
See you guys.
See ya.
Take care.
See you, dude.
No, we have a survey on our Instagram. Let us know how we're doing. You know, obviously iTunes. You know, give us a good review. Keep us in the ratings. Keep us in the top spot for our industry podcast. It'd be great. But if you want to help shape it, Johnny, what do we got on our Survey Monkey this week? Anything good?
I'm personally going to start harassing Mike Rowe.
Okay.
I echo Mike Rowe. It's a lot of Mike Rowe stuff. Someone asked us to get Jesse James. That might be a
Is he
reach.
still alive?
Yeah. The
I feel like
Essential
we should get
Craftsman.
him and Fred Durst.
Dude, we got another long review
From Jesse James.
from DJ Engineer.
I'm looking him up. Jesse James.
I'm going to read it while you guys are looking that. Hello, Nick, Tyler, and Johnny. I'm not the only one to comment and rate, but felt I had to contribute as I learned a lot in the past few months listening to your podcast while also recognizing, I don't even know how, corollaries? What is that?
It's good stuff.
Recognizing corollaries with the topics you discuss in my industry, aerospace structural design. First off, future guests, in addition to Mike Rowe, Jesse James, Scott Wadsworth, the Essential Craftsman. Check out their latest video about Ken titled The Friend Who Revolutionized My Thinking. Chris Berry, the Idaho painter. Frank, the welder in Vermont. Tyler, Jamie, Tyler, Jamie, and Kevin of Firefly Bicycles. And Andrew Camarada, amazing work ethic. I'm a practicing aerospace structural engineer in New England. What I see at work with younger engineers' work ethics, ability to learn and apply, as well as the level of pride in their work is exactly what I hear you three talk about with your employees in your industry. My point being, this gap we talk about in the trades industry actually applies across the board. I think it has to do with our society we have become over the past 30 years. I'm doing terrible reading today. Wait till I do my ad read. Everyone wants something instantly and cannot focus due to the plethora of distractions in their faces. Smartphones with social media. I limit my time on social media, and every now and then I post on Instagram. I mainly use my personal computer for research on my next project since I spend my day in front of a computer at work. I see large skills we refer to as proficiency gaps in our engineering workforce, as well as on our manufacturing side. The younger engineers are fixated at the computer modeling and seem to have lost their way in integrating designs down to fundamental physics. I spend most of my days educating and teaching on fundamental physics we learned in school. Mechanical loads to this, thermal loads to do that, consequently deflection and stress strains on this. Once you know those basics, you know what you're driving the problem, and you can address the design changes to remedy the situation to meet customer requirements in the product. To me, this is what engineering is all about. That is fundamental thought process we have taught when we. I know I'm going in. To me, this is what engineering is all about, and it has the fundamental thought process we were taught when we studied engineering in school. And it took me 13 years of practicing to figure this out, and I'm trying to pass that knowledge along so they learn quicker than I did. I do not have an overarching solution to the moment, but wanted to comment that as I listen to your podcast during my 35-minute drive to and from the office, I hear topics you discuss and see the same principles in the things that I deal with every day. I wanted to illustrate and thank you guys for how open you are with topics and commend you for your work ethic and attention to craftsmanship. I think very similarly, and am doing what I can in my own little sphere of influence to foster similar environments on my end. Thank you. I look forward to the next podcast. Sorry, guys.
Wow.
That was a terrible read on my part. But
Don't worry about it. We got it. That
was
great.
And we have a short one.
You should have started with that one.
I should have probably
Just next
I'm
time.
confused because either way, great podcast. Really like all the honest conversation. Keep it going and don't worry about the critics. Remember, criticism is an easy form of ego defense. Putting it all out there takes true vulnerability, and that's what really matters. On a side note, episode 92 is still your best podcast to date. Keep up the great work. By the way, this is not PLG, and it says John Marley. It's definitely John Marley's boss because it's probably Pete on episode 92.
Must be.
Because it was filled out by Pete 116 or 1176.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate the review, DJ engineer. I appreciate, or we appreciate you listening. Of course, we're trying to hit other industries, and it's cool to always hear from other people outside of it. Also wanted to give a shout out to another podcast that just started.
Whoa.
Well, we got the Ask This Old House podcast from the Emmy-winning PBS series that has inspired generations of home enthusiasts. Each week, the trusted experts at Ask This Old House share exceptional home improvement advice with homeowners from around the country. On this week's episode, I don't have the guest names because this is last
You have to go listen.
week's read, so you're going to have to listen to it. Either way, to hear about this podcast as well as weekly tips and tricks from our pros, subscribe to the Ask This Old House podcast for free wherever you get your podcast.
It's funny. Someone did leave a great comment. Question number 9. Add a comment. We need to know, good or bad. This person wrote, "This is therapeutic for me, and I'm sure for so many others. Tyler is the intellectual." I knew I was going to say it wrong.
Intellectual.
Electrical.
One that keeps us critically thinking. He can somehow detach himself from what's directly in front of him and look at everything as a whole. And it's eye-opening every time he does. Johnny is a passionate one, so relatable too. I mean, so dedicated to the job that the motherfucker got sick. I'm glad he's feeling better and has learned to disconnect, but not lose that passion. Nick is the dreamer and has now become my spirit animal. I thought I was alone in the way my brain operates. Now I know I'm not. Side note, I can't tell if Johnny says drawings, ironically, or if it's just rubbing off on me. Or rubbing off on him. Actually, Nick says Dormer, and I can only hear Tommy Silva. Cheers, fellas. That's a great. So the last one is just not the test, but the summary is all survey is all questions. You can just dump something in and.
Well, this podcast was brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. Considering a painted wood siding on your next project because you love that look? So do we. Let us show you why architects, builders, and homeowners are switching to Duration for the same great look, but with a much faster installation and a far superior performance. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com.
So straight up, I just posted a picture last week, and that's when I used the clapboard.
Clapboard.
And Duration's the only place you can find it.
Really?
Yep. So I love it. I have it in the front of my house. I think that's you can look at a lot of different things, profiles and all that stuff, but I think the clapboard is the cleanest and the most authentic looking product out there that might even trick Mr. Hull.
I bet it would, especially with a nice brush finish.
Dude, and exposed nail heads. That's how I roll.
Yeah.